down. It's almost like real estate is local. And I think my computer messed up the start of the video, but that's okay. I can fix that in post. Hello, Futureland. If this is your first time to my channel, the purpose of my content is to help the average individual realize that you can reach financial freedom, make work completely optional in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. Rents are a big part of how I got here and how I made work optional. So I want to track what's going on with them. The first thing I want to talk about is anytime you hear people talking about rents going down, is that since we've started tracking the data in 1940, rents have never once, ever gone down market wide. You have some local pockets that can go down, right? When the car manufacturers move away from Detroit, you can get a rent crash in a local market. When the .com crash hits Silicon Valley harder than almost anywhere else, you can get a rent crash. But when you hear people talking about rents going down market wide, generally what you're hearing is people talking about large multi-family apartment complexes with 20, 40, 80, couple hundred units. It's not people talking about single family house with ADU, small multifamily like a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Those rents, I've never seen them come down. I have seen in 2009, because of the housing crash, Class A, high-end, really nice rentals, luxury rentals come down, but not in Class C, Class B, in the normal investor world of rentals. So I want to talk about 5 reasons why rents in that sector are going up market-wide. There could be a small mill town where a mill closes down. For a while, rents are going to be impacted. But if you're investing in an area like I recommend, where you have several economic drivers, right? Base, port, college, hospital, Boeing, Amazon, several different large companies or a large population, here's why your rents are going to be going up. What I've offered with this video, and I will edit this out in Futureland, is I'm going to be giving away an hour of my time, a Zoom call one-on-one with me and whoever gets closest to the 5 things that I'm going to talk about. Now, there are several things that could make rents go up that might not be in the 5 that I mentioned. That doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It doesn't mean that my 5 are right or wrong. These are my 5 opinions, owning real estate for over a decade, reaching financial freedom, retiring last year, completely living off of rental income for over a year now, and knowing that that rental income is going to go up, watching it go up because of these 5 factors that are actually impacting rents. Not, I think this is going to happen. These are actual, some of these are tangible numbers. We can actually, I'm going to show you some websites that'll show you why the rents are going up. But I'm going to take a couple of things out. There are a couple of things that are not impacting rents, but people often think they are. The first thing, I'm going to take out 2 things. The first thing I'm going to take out that isn't in the 5. So if you've guessed these, this doesn't mean this is wrong. I'm just removing this from the 5 that I'm going to talk about. The first is inflation. Rents don't go up because of inflation. Rents are a factor of inflation. So when rents increase, we get inflation numbers that are bigger, right? So that's putting the cart before the horse. So I'm going to take inflation out. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to take out is increased costs. I know this bothers people when they're a new investor. Once you've been investing for a few years and you have some rentals, you will understand that your expenses don't set your rents. A brand new investor will say something like, well, if my insurance and my property taxes go up, then I need to raise the rents. And that's not how it works. If you just raise the rents and you go above area average rents, you're going to lose your tenants and you're going to have a vacant unit. Then what are your expenses doing to you? Here's my proof that expenses don't set rents. If expenses had anything to do with rents, a property with a mortgage would rent for significantly more than a property that is paid off. And most tenants don't have a clue if there's a mortgage on that property or not, because expenses don't set rents. If you're not raising rents, expenses will quickly cost you an asset. One of the dumbest things I hear is, I don't want to raise the rents because I'll lose a good tenant. Well, great, don't raise the rents, you'll lose a good asset. But when area average rents go up, your rents increase. So here's the 5 things I am going to talk about. And there were some great comments on Facebook. And I want to see here if I can pull up some of the guesses on, I wanted the comments here. It wasn't very clear. And it's not like a sweepstakes. I literally, what is beeping? Why is beeping? That's going to kill me. Squirrel. So these are some of the comments. I put something out that said, giving away 1-hour Zoom call, first person to correctly guess the 5 reasons rents are going up in the comments on YouTube, comes out tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific, which is when I do my live stream. So if you're here today, howdy. If you're here in Futureland, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, I answer questions live. Although next week, I'll be on a cruise in the Mediterranean, and who knows what my Wi-Fi is going to look like on Tuesday. So we'll see. Might skip a week or 2. It's a 10-day cruise. Not sure how it's going to be. You should buy rentals. Time freedom is better than having a job. Just a little opinion. So here's the first guess. And I'm just going to read these. Property prices are outpacing wages. People want the easy way out, not to worry about lawn care, snow removal, etc. People waiting for interest rates to go down, which is driving more people into renting. More transient workforce, so people want to rent before they decide to buy. Like, these are some really good, I don't say guesses. Those are actually kind of educated. Tara did a really good job there. Sam, we have here high interest rates, high home prices, houses not being built as in the past decade, wages going up, more single people now than before. No, that's smart people, but you can call them single, whatever. Scott, high interest rates, high rental demand, right? So supply and demand, it is obviously a factor. So I'm not going to count that as one of the 5 because some of the things I'm going to talk about do impact supply and demand. Landlords recouping pandemic losses, that's a good guess. Wealthier renters choosing to relocate. And then inflation. Actually, Scott sent me a message. It's okay to have more than 5. You can guess as many times as you want. There were no rules. This is Calvin Ball. Hopefully you know who Calvin is. Home prices forcing people to rent. ZZ Top says rents will be going up because of beer drinkers and hellraisers. That's probably true. Cody. Increasing wages, inflation printing money, not enough supply, especially in affordable rentals. So higher demand than supply. Builders have only been building luxury rentals, which brings up rents. Population demographics, more people in the renting age bracket of 20 to 25 or 20 to 35 or so. I'm seeing some good guesses here. There was, Lisa had, I think, the most creative answer. So I don't know if this is the 5 that I'm going to talk about, but here's the most creative. 1, these are Lisa's, not mine. Greedy landlords. Okay. 2, landlords control rents. 3, landlords need more money to count while they eat bonbons and watch Days of Our Lives. Landlords have nothing better to do than to raise the rents. That was 4. Here's 5. More and more landlords are taking Dion's advice and implementing the binder strategy. Okay. Not sure how many of those I agree with. So there was a couple of those. Let me see. And I will read the ones here in this chat when I'm done with the intro to the video. These were some good guesses. I will actually go through these in my time and read all of them to see if there were any that came up with close to these. Lisa also put in here, there was an article to rents going up because of one company's algorithm. But here's my 5. I want to talk about these in not a real specific order. I am going to mention one that Matt, the lumberjack landlord, brought up last week. I'm actually going to show you the website and how that's impacting rents. The first one I want to talk about is one where I actually made a video on this. And because of this video, I talked with 3 legislators. And I'm not going to say that it impacted the bill, but it did stop the bill from coming out of committee, at least this year. We'll see what happens next year. So earlier this year, our session in Washington State is usually February, March, somewhere in there, beginning of the year, kind of. And the prospect of rent control was proposed in Washington State. And it's recently been proposed in Chicago. And then there's some talk about it with Biden's plan of protecting tenants that could implement here's the fear, and this is what's going to cause rents to go up. The prospect, just the possibility of nationwide rent control. In my video that I made when that was in session, and that video went out and had those legislators reach out to me, which I think was pretty proactive. Rent control makes landlords richer and more tenants homeless. And if you don't believe that, you're delusional, because I am a landlord. And here's how it works. I've got a friend with over 30 rentals and my brother with 10, who sometimes raise the rents when there's a tenant turnover. And even then they base it off of the last rent, so they don't do too much of an increase. And one of them has tenants that have been in place since 2006 and haven't had the rents changed. So some landlords never raise the rents. I use the binder strategy after acquiring a property after 2 or 3 months. So there is a rent increase when I acquire it at the tenant's request. And then I generally did 5% every other year until we had a black swan event in 2021. I actually did the binder strategy again and had an average of 20 to 28% rent increase across the board at tenant's request. But if rent control is threatened, not even in committee, out of committee, passes the House, passes the Senate, goes for the signature, passes veto, doesn't get vetoed, and becomes a law, because this is how a bill becomes a law. A bunch of money goes from this hand to this hand, and somebody gets paid off. That's how we get laws. So just the idea of it, landlords sit back and they go, I can do whatever I want with my rents. I can keep a good tenant, listen to the stupid advice in the Choose FI groups of never raise the rent on a good tenant because you can lose them. So instead choose to lose the good asset. Or they can do like I did, and every other year do 5%, or every 3 or 4 years, or when there's a tenant turnover, raise the rents. But now if rent control is threatened, just the idea of it, you have to do the maximum allowable rent increase every single year, because you don't, as a landlord, have the ability to make a rent adjustment like I did in 2021 when there's a black swan event from the pandemic and eviction moratorium not allowing rent increases for over a year, to where that the next year I saw rents go up 4 times more than I would have had I stuck to my normal 5% every other year. So one reason why rents are going to go up is because if landlords can't make an adjustment based on something happening you can't predict, then they have to raise the rents consistently every year, so rents will be going up. That's the first thing. If you're in a state like California where people say, well, we have rent control, or Oregon, you don't. If you own a single family house or a duplex and it's a rental and you keep it in your own name and you don't do something stupid like put it in an LLC, it's not hit by rent control. So my brother has his rentals in California in his own name, is not impacted by rent control, and can go years without a rent increase, confidently knowing that if there is something that shifts and somebody changes something in the way the rentals work, he can make a rent adjustment. The second thing, which was talked about in a couple of these answers on Facebook, more affluent people being able to live in more rural areas. This is, number 2, is actually impacting the large multifamily. More large complexes of, large number rentals, 200, 300 unit rentals are in city areas. They are in high population areas. So when we add remote working at a level to which has never been at any point in time in my life, at the level that it is now, because of the pandemic, people can work from home more. And don't think that when a small, and I do mean small company like Amazon or Tesla says people have to come back to the office, people have to come back to work, that's going to impact the remote work. How many warehouse workers at Amazon do you think were working remotely? They're talking about HR, IT, operations. That's not the bulk of their people that are now having to return to the office. We're talking about all of IT, all of tech, the entire tech industry, who owns the social media platforms where most of us get our news. So it seems like a lot of remote work is going away. The entire tech industry represents less than 12% of the workforce. It's a very small amount. I ran a CDL school for a decade, so I'm going to take out truck drivers. But if I look at every single person I know, half of them work remotely. If you take out truck drivers, kind of hard to do that remotely. Yeah, although drone, truck piling things might be a thing. So if remote work is now possible more than ever, and you don't have to live in the city where the work is at, that doesn't mean you're going to move from Seattle to Arkansas, because you're probably still going to have to come into the office once a week or twice a week. But you can move from an area like Seattle or San Diego or New York out an hour and a half or 2 hours away. It's actually why I was able to acquire the deal that I just did. The rents where I'm at have shot up over 20%. Prices haven't even budged yet. So I was able to get a property where the price didn't make sense at the rents that were here, but it's a great deal at the rents that are here. If you're paying attention to your local market, you can find the deals. So people that are working remotely, they can now rent a larger place for significantly less than what they were renting before in the city, in the larger city, closer to the work, pay a higher amount, get a discount from what they were paying, probably drive the renters in that area further out. So rents are increasing because of remote work possibilities. Because remote workers are watching the social media platforms that we are, and they're hearing things like Tesla saying return to the office or you're fired, Amazon saying you got to return to the office. So they don't want to buy. Why commit to a 30-year mortgage for the prospect of owning for a couple of years to sell, because you need to at least gain the appreciation to cover the cost of selling, which is somewhere between 8 and 10% of the purchase price. But you can rent. So there's increased demand. That's why that supply and demand was a factor, but it's not one of the 5, because it kind of hits all of these. So remote work is the second thing, the possibility of rent control. The third thing that's going to impact your rents, and I'm actually going to share my screen here if I can make this work, is this. And Matt, the lumberjack landlord, covered this week during his live stream, and I think he actually made another video on it. But this is what's happening with Section 8. And here's the quick breakdown on how Section 8 does their numbers for rents. First, did you know you can use your Section 8 voucher to buy a house? That's a thing. If you rent to Section 8, your rents are going to be impacted by this page. If you don't rent to Section 8, your rents are going to go up. If you are a tenant, if you are a renter that isn't using the Section 8 program, this is why your rent is going to go up. This is a nationwide fair market rent website that the housing authorities in each county, you can actually go to this website. You can see by the year. I'm going to look up fiscal year 2024. The way the housing authority have had it explained to me is they look at 7 years. They look at the last 7 years. They take out the most recent 2. So out of those 7 years, if you only look at these 5, you get an average of what the rents are. And in 2020, we had a pandemic and rents didn't move. But what happened in 2021? Massive rent increases, because now one of the things people mentioned is landlords need to make up for the losses or mitigate the fear and risk of an eviction moratorium happening again, a rent freeze happening again. So rents need to go up. But now those 5 years, including 2021, are being factored into 2024. In 2025, 2022 numbers will be included. So if I click here and I go to the state that I'm in, which my computer should listen to me, Washington State. Nope, that is not correct. And then I'm in 3 counties. I'm just going to look up Pierce County. I'm not in King County because I'm not stupid. But I go to next screen. You can do this too. And I will actually pin a comment with this link down below. So here is fair market rents for 2023. So if you have basically 1-bedroom studio or renting a room, and this current year, $1,174. January 1, 2024, about a 30% increase. Somebody can do the math there. A 1-bedroom is going up $300. Here's where most of my rentals are, 2 and 3 bedrooms. So I can now, starting January 1st in 2024, since there's a shortage in my market and they can usually do a 10% variance and go higher 10%, I could rent to Section 8 for basically $2,000 a month, a 2-bedroom, which currently I can get $1,650 for. 3 bedrooms are going up almost $500 a month. I'm not saying rent to Section 8, and I'm not saying your Section 8 rents are going up. That's not how this works. If you own a rental in Pierce County, Washington, or whatever county you're in, there are some counties where the numbers are actually bigger than this, and there are some where it's smaller. But what if you want to rent to a non-Section 8 tenant? Are you going to rent to them for less than what you can get from Section 8? That's the point. This doesn't impact Section 8 housing. This impacts the housing market, because no landlord is going to willingly take less from a riskier tenant, the public, than they could from the guaranteed money of a Section 8 tenant. And my 4-bedroom, which is currently at like 2021 rates of $2,200, can go up $1,000 from where I'm at starting January 1 next year. And here's the great thing. That is actually a Section 8 tenant. When we do this, when the rent goes up $1,000 for that tenant, the portion that the tenant pays goes down in some cases. The last time she had a rent increase, her portion of the rent decreased. So that is the third 20% increase here from $1,100 to $1,400. So that's almost $300. No, it's $250. Yeah, 20% increase. Thankfully, Matt's here because he's the math guy and the smart one. So now that's the third thing. This while it looks like it impacts Section 8, that the rising tide lifts all boats. No one's going to rent to a public tenant for less than what you can get from Section 8. The fourth thing might not impact the entire housing market across the country, like the housing authority raising their rates that significantly, because now they're including a year where there was a significant increase. My portfolio at tenants' request saw between 20 and 28% rent increases that the tenants asked for. That was a big year. 2022, there was also some rent increases. We're not seeing as much in 2023. So you might see fair housing do this big spike, and then it might plateau for a while. But this fourth one is going to impact anywhere that there is a military installation or any town that has colleges. There is a thing called basic allowance for housing. So if you're in the military, I was in the Marine Corps. If you don't live on base in military housing, you live off base. So you're either going to live in the barracks if you're single, base housing if you're married, or off base if there's not enough base housing, which I have never seen a military installation that has enough housing to accommodate all the personnel staff there. They pay you the amount of your housing. I've actually done interviews with veterans coming out, prepping them for interviews for companies, and they said, well, how much do I make if I'm married? Because it is a military concept that you are compensated based on whether you're single or you're married. So I'm going to actually show you here why this impacts bases and why this impacts towns that have colleges. So this first sentence here, on average, basic allowance for housing will go up 3 or 4%. They call it a COLA, cost of living increase. But in 2023, BAH is reported to be averaging 12.1%, although that amount may vary. For example, between commander and warrant officers, 2023 officer rates expected $82 to $184 a month. So a 12% increase in 2023 to BAH. Now, eventually that'll be factored into the HUD, the fair market housing that we just saw on that other website. But if you're in a town like anywhere within 50 miles of Joint Base Lewis McChord, the largest installation, I think, on the West Coast or the North and West Coast, or near a naval base or near an Air Force base, or anywhere where there's a military installation within 50 miles, you're going to see BAH go up a 12% rate last year. That's going to, no one around a base is going to rent to a civilian for less than what they can rent to a military person. But this also impacts any town that has a college, because if somebody, the service member, the veteran, the spouse, or the dependent of those veterans that are using the GI Bill to attend college are also paid BAH. If you use Voc Rehab, you get 50% of BAH. But if you use the GI Bill, you're going to get BAH based on the town that you're at. Now, it's generally rated at an E5 level in that area with a 12% increase last year. In 2024, I think it's only going to be a 3-point-something% increase. but that's on top of the 12% from this year. And then the fifth thing that's going to impact rents and cause your rents to go up, tenant or landlord. Which one do you want to be? And this is one that several people mentioned in the guesses on Facebook and here on YouTube, but before I got a chance to look at the comments. Home prices are high. Interest rates are high, making it very hard to buy a property. A lot of people are priced out. A lot of people are priced down. They have to buy the 2-bedroom instead of the 4 that they need, or they continue renting, increasing demand on rentals. If you have more people who can't buy because prices and rates are too high, that doesn't mean it drives prices down. The last time interest rates doubled was in the 1970s. Home prices almost tripled. Prices go up when interest rates go up. Prices also go up when interest rates go down. You have what interest rates impact is the number of transactions. If interest rates go down, you're going to have more deals happen. If interest rates go up, you're going to have less deals happen, but the prices continue to go up because what we have impacting prices right now is a limited supply. I've actually shared the video or the image several times. In the last decade, we've created a fraction, around 5 million homes in the last decade compared to the 25, 27 million homes created each decade before that. So we have limited supply. Demand is impacted by interest rates, but that doesn't affect prices. It impacts the number of transactions. So those are the 5 things. I will go through the comments and figure out who was the closest. I will be giving away an hour of my time. I might trick or talk Millennial Mike or Lumberjack Landlord to being on that call with somebody who guessed closest on those 5. You didn't have to nail all 5. It's just going to be who had the most. Maybe Lisa will win with the most sarcastic. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I might have to do 2 if I do that. So I hope you're watching the market in your area. I hope you're watching the elements that can impact rent in your area. It isn't inflation. Increased rent causes inflation. Inflation doesn't cause increased rents. Increased costs don't cause rents to go up. Again, a house with a mortgage would rent for significantly more than one that doesn't have a mortgage. Area average rents set rents. These are 5 factors that are impacting area average rents. I see I've been joined by our favorite first responder, Mike Newton. Howdy.
How's it going? Good. Yeah, so I only can stick around for about 15 minutes. My son's bus that usually comes at 4 showed up at 4:25, but it's his first day of school, so I think that's why they're delayed. But it worked out because you did a 30-minute rant instead of a 10-minute rant today.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a short one because I want to release this while I'm on my cruise again, but it's still going to be 30 minutes long.
All good. It needed to be said. And I will fight Lisa for that most sarcastic response because I had the best one in the group chat earlier today. We won't share it here.
No, I have to go look at the group chat. Nice. Okay, so you have rents in Gary, Indiana at a distance. We're not going to talk too much about your Seattle. You're getting a massive rent increase here because you're changing strategies.
Tons of rent increases all across the board on all my properties here and there, just flying up at insane rates.
It sucks to own rentals. Money's heavy.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, it's awful.
Have you looked at the fair market rents for the county that you're in Gary?
No, Matt sent me the link and I was going to do a video on it, but I haven't gone over and actually looked at the numbers yet.
Are you opposed to doing a live action reaction right now?
I mean, we can, but I don't have the stuff pulled up to share it. You'd have to type it in yourself.
That's okay. I think I can do that. I want to see because not every county is the same. There are some that are barely moving.
Sure. Right.
Because it bases on what happened with rents in there 5 out of the last 7 years. So
Lake County, Indiana.
And then what county?
Lake County.
Blake or Lake?
Lake.
Okay. And I can know the alphabet. Here we go. So here, why am I very interesting looking?
Yeah, that's gorgeous right there. That's beautiful.
So they go by zip code. Okay.
Yeah. Scroll down to 46409. Scroll down, 46409. I own a bunch of properties right there. In the 407, 6, 7, and 8, 9. Yeah, that's gorgeous right there.
Do you know what they are currently?
Yeah, well, I don't know what they are off the top of my head currently. I'd have to pull up my sheet real quick that I have. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds and I'll let you know what those are.
Yeah, so it looks like 2 bedrooms going to 1,350, 3 bedrooms going to 1,660, 4 bedrooms going to 1,800.
So 46409 right now, a three bedroom is listed at 1,560. So it's gone up $100 a month right there. 46408 is 1,500. So surprisingly, that one has dropped. No, excuse me, take it back. I read it wrong. No, sorry, it's 1,356. That one's gone up by about 50, $60. 46407 was 1,296. So that one's only gone up like 20 something dollars. And then 46406, I own there too. 1,370 is what you've got. And I've got 1,320. So FMR went up the most in 46409 by $100, which decent increase.
Now, is the Section 8 program there just paying what their fair market rent is? Or do they have the variance to go a little above? Or do they fight you and try to go a little lower?
I mean, they fight you and try to go lower all the time. And that number right there also includes what they may pay potentially towards utilities. So you usually actually get lower than what those numbers are. So for instance, if I see 1,500, I know I'm probably going to get somewhere around 1,300. Anybody who's seen my channel knows that I routinely talk about 3-bed, 1-baths getting 1,250 with Section 8. And 1,250 is fantastic. Most of the mortgage payments I have on my houses are between $350 to $500 a month. So if you're getting 1,250 for a 3-bedroom, I mean, you're doing fantastic. Your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are like 40%, 35, 40% of what your mortgage payment is, or excuse me, of what that FMR Section 8 payment is. And then when it comes to 2 beds, I'm looking at $950 to $1,050, $950 to $1,050 on a 2-bed unit, which is fantastic for Gary. Because when I was starting buying 3 years ago, your 2 bedrooms were at like $650 a month. They've gone up 60%, something like that. So in just a couple of years, it's fantastic.
Yep. Every time we talk to somebody and somebody has owned a rental for a long time, everyone always envies the position. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever met somebody that said, "Oh, I'm super glad I didn't buy in 1990 or 2005, right, and own a property from that price." It's almost like people refuse to acknowledge that it's ever going to be 10 years from now.
Right. Yeah, time is the most powerful component of real estate investing, and you don't ever get to take advantage of it unless you start getting up on the board. You have to do something. You have to buy your first property. I mean, even this one that I have here in Seattle, when I picked it up in 2018, November of 2018, it was rented for $1,600 a month. I just had the tenants move out at $2,150 a month, and I had got it to $2,150 within only 2 years. I would re-rent it for $2,500 if I wasn't turning it into an Airbnb. That's almost $1,000 increase in rent in just a 4-year period. It's ridiculous.
I was talking with the Three Amigos earlier today. I think a video that comes out tonight. A friend of mine bought in 2021, and rents have doubled since 2021.
Dang, that's amazing.
So
it's terrible for renters. Feel awful for them. It's awful. It's just we're just creating more and more income inequality, and I know that's a political buzzword that a lot of people get offended when they hear something like income inequality. But really, what's happening is the middle class is just getting destroyed, and I think most people will recognize and agree with the fact that the middle class is getting hammered. There are more people piling up at the bottom, which is why I tell people all the time they need to learn about Section 8. Because I think that the government is going to continue to have to expand their government-assisted housing. And if you're not figuring out as a landlord how to partner with the government, which is guaranteed money, you're doing yourself a disservice.
At least for a portion, if you're in an area at a distance where it's really consistent, I can see it. In Matt's case, Zuber's case, my case, I kind of like the idea of doing a percentage, like a third, half, have a portion of your portfolio stabilized like that. Every time somebody brings up the middle class and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, I want to reference this image. It's true. The middle class is shrinking, but the high income earners and the affluent went up by 50%, whereas the lower income did increase, but not as much. So I think with YouTube University being an option now, we have more of a chance than ever of, yeah, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And I'm going to say something super rude that nobody likes to hear, nobody likes to admit. By choice.
Agreed.
And I understand you need to dip out whenever time hits. So cut me off.
Yeah, I got a couple more minutes. Yeah, no, I think you're right. There's more people who are becoming wealthy because there was always a segment previously in the middle class who were hardworking people who would apply themselves. But now, as you mentioned, YouTube University and things that we have access to, the knowledge and the ability to start businesses, there's a whole group of the middle class who shifted into that upper tier. But those people who used to be able to just skate by, just showing up to work and getting the pension, those people now don't have that luxury anymore, and they're falling down into that lower bracket right there, which, as you said, it's by choice. At any point, there is an unlimited amount of opportunities to go out there and make a bunch of money. If you're poor in America, it is your own fault. Unless you had some sort of crazy medical problem, it's your fault. It's because you're lazy and you're not applying yourself. It's not that hard to be successful. You, the lumberjack, Zuber, myself, every single one of us started out poor, broke, terrible credit, horrible family situations, or just really obnoxious and annoying like Matt, which is an extreme handicap. I don't know how he ever overcame, but he's walking. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think he was watching earlier. He's walking proof that it can be done.
I totally guarantee. So, howdy, Bill. I see you here. I'm still trying to get that live from your live with Matt. You are in control of that. You have my email. We've talked several times. You've actually been in some of the Zooms with us. You can just set that up. Ninja Vanish, Frank, howdy. I see Frank has a couple of comments here. Before I get to the comments or see what they say, because I'm going to read them in a second. What are you doing Thursday, Frank? I would like to do a live stream with you, possibly Thursday evening, where people can ask you questions because you do remodels. And I think owning a business doing remodels and acquiring rentals, just recently closed on 2. You might have some information that I would like to share with people. And you have a great personality to put on camera. The wealth building journey gives us a riddle. I'm the beginning of everything, the middle of forever, and the end of time. What am I? I will let people in the comments wonder what that is. It almost sounds like it's from the Lord of the Rings. Okay, Frank, this is kind of a long one. We're working on stabilization and optimization for our portfolio. I've contacted our property management and asked about Section 8 and the process of raising rents in light of Matt sharing 2024 fair market rent. One said she doesn't look at it because it's literally done on a case-by-case basis. Any thoughts besides letting her go? Wealth building journey, I think that makes you 5th. So, Frank, with your property manager setting rents, how do they compare to fair market rent? They might not want to use fair market rents to set the rents. If they're at or above it, I wouldn't care. If they're significantly below it, and they don't have a justifiable reason, just like, oh, I liked this tenant, or they're a single parent, just anti-discrimination going against the other people, discriminating against people with 2 incomes, I would get rid of them. So it would be, where are the rents in comparison to what fair market rents are? Because that should be a basis to build from. Because fair market rents only looks at bedroom count. If you have shed, family room, den, garage, high-end anything, that's not factored into fair market rents. So if there's anything about your place that would make the rents higher, it is case by case. It can go higher. I wouldn't go less unless you're in an area where if it's predominantly stick built and you own the one mobile home in that area, it's probably going to rent for less. They have a scale that they grade things on for fair market rents. The lumberjack landlord knows what that scale is. I don't remember it. So that would be my question. Where are your rents in comparison to it? Because if it's at or above, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's below, they don't know what they're doing. Get rid of them. Howdy.
I'm going to take off here in a second, but I'll give one more piece of advice on Section 8. I've had the same experience with Matt, and I think, Dion, you have had too. Section 8 will try to lowball you, and you just have to stand firm on your ground. I had recently where they had a tenant that I was signing for a 3-bed, and they tried to say they wanted to pay me $964. I was like, absolutely not. I know that these things rent for $1,250. $1,250 is the high end. I said, nope, absolutely not. We're not signing it. And then they can explain to the individual who they'd promised to pay for the housing why she's now not getting the housing. So I waited like about a week or something like that. And all of a sudden I get an email from my property manager that they were coming up to $1,200 at that point. And I said, done deal, no problem. You just have to call them on their bluff. And if I hadn't have listened to Matt talk about that and you talk about binder strategy in Section 8, then I wouldn't have known. I would have just thought, oh, this is their number. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't have a conversation. It's set in stone. It's absolutely not. You have to know your own rent. And you have to advocate for yourself. And even if you use a property manager, they don't care about getting the highest amount of rent. They just want to get somebody in there, start getting their fees, start getting paid. You have to be your own expert and advocate. So Dion, I got to take off sadly, but thank you for that life lesson you taught me with Matt on Section 8.
All right. Travel safe. Tell James I said howdy.
I will. See you later.
All right. Yeah, Frank, I agree with Mike on that. If you're dealing with Section 8, so it sounds like your property management is just setting rents and not using fair market rents to factor in where they should be. What I did with Section 8 to get my rent significantly higher than what they told me their maximum was I did the work for them. I pulled up the comps that I was going to use and sent them. So maybe your property manager needs to see what rental comps in the area are. Michelle, howdy. Frank, 5 reasons, your guess here. End of government protections during pandemic, increased demand, shortage of new construction, rising interest rates and property values, remote jobs, increase in maintenance expenses. Cool, I will be looking at those. And the phones on Facebook too. Aloha, Mark, good to see you. Trucking landlord, howdy. Laura, howdy. Matt Bob D is on. REI Stoners, howdy. Wealth bidding journey. One of the factors likely has to deal with supply and demand. That's one of the ones I took out because I think it's factored in all of them almost. Cody, good to see you. REI Stoners, currently waiting to take a drug test for a new job. I'm definitely not going to pass, but have a cannabis note that is required for the job. Awesome. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. Hopefully you've watched my interview techniques video if that's what you were doing recently too. Duchess, Dion, can you please go talk to the Colorado legislator? I fear you won't be able to get through to them though. So if you email me, Duchess, I'll put my email in here. What I would do, since you are what is called a constituent and I'm a nobody, is actually I'll put this email in there. Either one. I'll send a link to my video where I explain how rent control makes landlords richer and makes more tenants homeless. That's the part I didn't cover today. More tenants become homeless because landlords aren't stupid. And if you can't raise the rent, there are several legal ways to get a tenant the hell out of your place so you can adjust the rents. The first is, I'm going to move in. You got 90 days to move out. I'm going to sell. You got 90 days to move out. I need to do a rehab to make the place more safe. You have 60 days to move out. There are several ways to get a tenant out or offer cash for keys to get them out to then be able to set rents where they need to go. Product of rent control. Chris, howdy. Made it still at W2. We should call it paid training. Nice. Jordan, howdy. Ninja Vanish, listening to this on remote work right now. Imagine that. Alantino, rent is crazy high here in LA. It is. The eviction moratorium lasted longer in LA County than almost anywhere else. You have several versions of rent control, even in the county, that are more severe than what happens to the state. The amount of days of notice, what you have to do if the tenant doesn't like the increase, very much like Seattle. The more controls you put in place, the more it limits building. Right? If builders can't profit from building, you have limited building, which then increases or decreases the supply for the demand that's already there, which increases your rents. Lumberjack landlord, math and me. Appreciate it. Wealth building journey, basic allowance for housing BAH. Absolutely. Buddies, howdy. Any tips on buying a home that makes it more appealing for the seller without increasing the offer price or earnest money? Being in second position if you're not going to raise your earnest money or raise the price, somebody else might outbid you. A lot of times people will make a large offer to get under contract to then negotiate. So if you can say, I would like to be in second position if you've accepted another offer. That's how about half my portfolio was acquired. For a while, I would say one of the things to do to be most attractive to a seller was to be quick, to be very fast to make an offer. That doesn't seem to be the market we're in now. Now what I'm doing is watching days on market. The longer something sits on market, the more likely I am to make a lower offer. I was 20% below the asking on my last place that I closed on, which wasn't the goal. Actually, that didn't matter to me at all. What mattered was the number I made the offer at got me the return I was looking for. Sales price is just something I kind of know and what the difference is because I've made videos about it. But I would buy this place for the amount that I paid with the amount of work that it needed to do this. Didn't matter what they were asking for. I had to wait to make my offer because if I did it when it was posted really quickly, where speed used to be our friend, my offer would have been laughed at. But since they didn't get an offer for a long time, mine became attractive due to time. So watch days on market and make your offers. You can include a letter from your lender stating that based on what they know about you, you are likely to close. You're a strong closer. They will be very careful about not saying anything like, we guarantee they can close, but they could say things like, this person's financial situation makes them highly likely to close on this transaction. That adds to the credibility of your offer. Julie Anderson, I have one Section 8. Will Section 8 automatically increase the rent? Nope. And they will fight you to keep it down. The person with the power to walk away, the ability to walk away, has the power. Words are hard. You do a lease renewal with your tenant, and then you submit the lease renewal to the Section 8 program, and they tell you if they approve it or not. And if they come back with, we don't approve it, you can also submit it. When you submit the lease saying, here's what I'm signing with the tenant, here's the fair market rents, or here's several comps in the area that are renting for the same amount to show why you're setting it at that. Generally at fair market rent or less, they're going to agree to it, especially if you do the work for them. Send them the comps, the links to the rentals in the area that have the same number of bedrooms but aren't being rented for more because they have other amenities that can't be counted. Remember, they don't count storage, garage, den, family room, pool, sauna, hot tub. None of that matters. Bedroom count. As long as you can find comps where that's what the rent is and then what the fair market rent is and send it in with them. Let them know you are an educated landlord and that the website for fair market rents exists. Like that's 90% more than most landlords are ever going to do with Section 8 anyway. Zurich? Is it the same for Canada? I actually don't know much about investing in Canada. I know that you have a really, by comparison, bad debt structure compared to the US. The US, most mortgages are 30-year fixed rate debt, where in Canada you have a debt that adjusts every 5 years, which could cause rents to spike because if interest rates go up, market-wide interest rates are going up, landlords are going to be charging more, which affects area average rents. I don't know that fair market housing impacts Canada because that's a US thing. I don't know that BAH affects Canada because that's a US thing. It could impact close if you have US military installations there. Increased prices isn't going to increase demand because people can't buy. Remote work is probably a thing there too. So yeah, I would say a couple of things are going to impact Canada, but I don't know enough about it to actually make a logical comment. Even the channel that I usually refer people to for Canada is a Canadian investing in the US. So he's not even investing in Canada. Dividend Dave, I see you did a super chat and somehow I missed it. Didn't pop up on my screen. Very weird. Hello, it's me, Dividend Dave. Yay, words. Howdy, lots of words. Did Mike leave because I showed up? It makes sense. It does. I think so. I think it's actually what he texted me. JMC, howdy. Howdy, Dion and Mike. Mike says howdy. He's in the chat now. Is there such a thing as bulletproof buy box? If you were to restart your portfolio, what is a fantastic buy box to have? Can buy boxes change in your journey? They do often. They actually change in your journey. Mine changed after looking for about a year while I was saving for the first down payment. I was trying to find single family houses to do a repeat house hack. So I was never going to share living space with tenants or have tenants living on the property with me. I was going to buy a single family house, live there for at least a year to satisfy the lender's requirement to own or occupy, rinse and repeat every other year or so. And in 10 years, I'd have at least 5 single family houses. I still haven't seen a single family house in my area that would cash flow. I do own 2 single family houses. One is part of my triplex. I literally call it the triplex because it's a house and a duplex. So one of them is an ADU, don't know which. But it's a single family house on the property. But since they don't cash flow, I changed my buy box to small multifamily. I recently just changed my buy box to expand my search criteria out by about another 30 minutes of travel from where I was investing, which added about 11 markets to my investing. 2 of them had a bunch of deals that made sense, and I started making offers. And I started watching days on market in my buy box instead of being fast. I wanted several agents with several searches set up so I can get the listing the second it came out, get an offer in within an hour or 2. And that shifted. So buy box can shift throughout your entire investing depending on what you're trying to do. As in this last year, my buy box shifted because I was saving the last 2 years. I was saving money because this is the problem I'm willing to give to everybody who's watching. I want you to have this problem. After you hit the income snowball and you've hit financial freedom, the money keeps coming in. And it just piles up, and it's really hard to take naps on a lumpy mattress full of cash. So I started looking for properties to purchase. I actually had the intent at the beginning of 2023. My goal, this might have been a 2022 thing as well. I wanted to buy $1 million fourplex. I wanted to buy my most expensive property, and I was looking for the fourplex. I made several offers, got into several negotiations. Nothing ever quite fit. But as that savings started to get so big to where I could start getting a 1.5 or a 1.7 million fourplex and owner occupy with 20% down, that number just kept getting bigger and bigger. I started thinking, well, let me adjust my buy box. Now I have enough money because I had about $500,000 to self-fund a BRRRR. So no hard money. So I have my own timeline, self-fund the purchase, self-fund rehab. Now I've got a BRRRR that I can modify and maybe do a cash out refinance at the end, or maybe leave the money in there and just enjoy the extra cash flow. Because what good does money in the bank do me? It would just make me go buy another property. And that's not my goal. My goal is the right amount of cash flow with the least amount of units. So yeah, you can change your buy box. Bulletproof for me is when you add house hacking, because you have to live somewhere. And if you can reduce or eliminate that expense, it makes saving for the next investment a lot easier. I would stay with fixed rate debt. That helps you be bulletproof. Doesn't matter what happens to rates, and it doesn't matter what happens to prices. Prices could drop by 50% tomorrow, and I wouldn't care. Actually, I'd probably be irritated because I'd go shopping and buy some more property. That would suck. I would add units. But net worth doesn't mean anything to me. So I wouldn't care if my values went down on my properties. Actually, I just had that conversation this morning. So to bulletproof it, I would house hack, 30-year fixed rate debt, and then I would add the element of time. If you were starting over, set a decade to set your goals. Yes, there are people who do it in 2 or 3 years. There are people like Mark, the financial firefighter. You should check out his YouTube channel. Empties out his retirement accounts and within 2 years gets 14 rentals. He has some videos on why he might not have should have done that. Because then you get a bunch of turnovers and evictions and rehabs all at the same time while you're getting your feet under you. So it's possible. You could totally do that. Maybe you don't have $89,000 in bad debt you didn't know about until the divorce. Maybe you're not a single parent with 3 kids. Maybe you're not only making $17 an hour. So for me, it took 10 years, right? Because of those things. So yeah, you could probably do it a little bit faster than that. But if you set the goal of 10 years, meaning you are okay with how slow those first couple of years are going to go, it's not get rich quick, it's get wealthy for sure. That's the bulletproof buy box. And then I've got my list of when I buy a property. I want to make sure first it starts with math, right? Is the yield there? Am I going to get the return that justifies the purchase? Is the yield better than the area average yield for that asset in that class, in that market? Second, it's does the area justify my purchase? Are there enough economic drivers to handle something like Boeing going away or a port going on strike? So that's why I have that list of a base, a port, colleges, hospitals, Boeing or Amazon, large population. I want several things, not all of them, but several things. Like I invest in a town called McKenna, Washington, 650 population, but 20 minutes from the capital. It abuts one of the largest military bases on the West Coast. Like it has enough of the other elements where I know a couple things can happen to the economy there, and I'd still have tenants. Then does the physical aspects of the property help me maintain and keep tenants with low tenant turnover? Side by side, small multifamily instead of over under. I only own one over under. It's not my preference. This one I own because it's got a great view on both of them. So I want side by side. I want garages and at least 2 bedrooms. More space equals more stuff, so less likely to move. I want fenced in private yards for each unit because if they can have pets, they're less likely to move. I want washer dryer hookups inside each unit because somebody using shared laundry or a laundromat is just waiting for a place to open to move. So I have the math, the area, the physical aspects of the property, include house hacking, and add 10 years. To me, I would start it over. That's the thing. Here's what sucks for everyone watching if you haven't reached financial freedom, right? So Joe Kuhn, who retired with the stocks method, with the buckets and using the 4% rule, and he's got his retirement group, other guys that are retired that he uses as his support group and bounces questions off of with his systems in place. He's reached financial freedom, and he could start over at zero, and he would go, yep, it's going to take me this many years, and I will just do this and this and this in this order, and I will achieve it again. Matt, the lumberjack landlord, with his experience and his decades of what he's done, if he started over, he would go, yep, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and it would happen. He would know within 5 to 15 years, totally financially free. I know if I lost everything and started over, it would take a decade, right, to do everything. It would take 2 years to make sure I had consistent income to be bankable while I saved the down payment for the first house hack, 2 years to the next one, then probably a year and a half, then probably a year, and then probably 6 months. And I'd probably have somewhere between 12 and 16 rental units within 10 years, again, with cash flow more than what it cost me to live. I, like Joe and Matt and Zuber, I physically know that's exactly how it would happen. If you're watching, you have examples of Zuber and Matt and Kuhn and Millennial Mike and me and Beth Traverso and people who have done this, right? You have examples, you know it's possible, but you haven't done it. So that doubt is a factor. And it sucks that we can't just remove that doubt, because the problem is there's so many ways to do this and so many fake gurus out there and so many crash bros making videos that just don't matter, but get a lot of views because there's a lot of fear porn in it. I get that the temptation is to go, yeah, this is just so risky and it's uncertain. I might as well just work until I'm 75 and just, complain about how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, instead of what does it take to save a down payment? What does it take to work on your credit score? What does it take to talk to a lender and find out what your options are? Pick a market, pick a strategy, find an agent, get those searches going. Just keep going through the steps and do the work every day, whether it's stocks, crypto, grow a business, invest in real estate. The next 10 to 20 years are going to happen. They're going to be there's nothing about it. They're going to happen, but people live in denial that they think it's not. That's my bulletproof format that I would just repeat now. Julie Anderson, I cannot keep up with the spin-offs of this series. Who are James and Frank? James is Mike's kid, who's on the intellect level somewhere between me and Millennial Mike, lumberjack landlord. He's somewhere in the middle of here. And then Frank Contreras is watches the channel often, comments often. He's in my course. He owns a rehab business and he's investing. He invested into we're going to talk about this Thursday if he I haven't seen his answer yet, but if he's willing to, it'd be great. If he his experience in 2008 that didn't go so great, and now his committing to investing in real estate again. That's why I want to share his story. So there you go. There's the spinoffs. Holly's video show. My rent's going up over $270 a month. Like Millennial Mike said earlier, it sucks for the tenants. There was a period of 2 years where I moved from my house and moved into an apartment to rent out my house to get rental income on my tax returns so that I would have a better ability to deal with my bad debt to income ratio, right? So that's kind of how I got started. In those 2 years, I lived in 2 different apartments because I moved into one and they raised the rent so much I just moved into another one. Sometimes the cost of move, you have to compare what's the cost of moving, the hassle of moving versus this increase that they're doing. And a lot of landlords are raising because area average rents went up, so they can. Because if you don't have the option to move to a place that's cheaper, what are your other options? Right now, it's one of those 5 reasons it's really hard to buy a house. Prices and rates are so high. And lending didn't slack and go, well, it's really hard to buy a house. Let's make it easier. They still want a good credit score. They want a good credit history. They want good work. They want a good debt to income ratio, like all of those vetting things that didn't happen between 2005 and 2007. So it's a hard position to be in. That's why I consider there are people who house hack before you own a house. A lot of us had roommates when we were renting. So sometimes people will rent to mitigate that cost with roommates. It's weird that when somebody buys a house, they all of a sudden stop having roommates. It's like, I was totally fine with you helping me pay someone else's mortgage, but don't you dare help me pay my mortgage. My goal, Holly, is to help you get on the property ladder, to acquire a house hack or 2 or 3, make work completely optional within a decade, and be fair to your tenants. Even though I have this thing called the binder strategy that helps me as an investor because my tenants ask me to raise the rent. Their rents are still below area average. They're still getting a fair deal, and they're educated and they understand that because we've had the conversation where they got to pick their own rent. BuzzTune, howdy. Frank, this is a 2-1 in Illinois. Current rents $821, fair market $999, 24 is 12, so it's going up $209 off the Thursday afternoon or evening work for you. Awesome. We will set that up. So if anybody is interested, Frank and I will be doing a live stream like this on Thursday where you can ask questions of somebody who is invested in 2008, didn't have a great experience, and is investing now, has recently closed on 2 deals, and is doing rehabs. He runs a rehab company, not where he invests. And then JMC took back a message to make me wonder and lose sleep forever and ever what he was saying. Adam Calhoun, howdy. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, I'll hit that like button. Thank you. I appreciate that. And we look through here, Adam, and make sure I am not missing any questions from you, because sometimes they'll pop up outside of it. JMC, can you explain the idea, pros and cons of rent per door versus per unit? Per door versus per unit. You mentioned you want minimal amount of properties and highest cash flow. What happens when you reach that high cash flow? Do you stop reinvesting in properties and pay off properties? Lazy investor here. JMC. Okay, great. Good questions. Let me try to start answering that first one. There is a Matt bobblehead. I don't think he did production. He's got one in his videos. Angel. So JMC, can you explain the idea, pros and cons of rent per door versus per room? So if you're renting by the room, is that per door? Is that what you mean? Todd Baldwin has a YouTube channel and he's been on BiggerPockets a couple times. He rents around Seattle, rents by the room. It's you're dealing with a little more personal interaction with people. There's shared living spaces. You'll have an increased ability to make money. What you're looking for is the closest average of bedroom to bathroom count. So you have the least amount of shared bathrooms. It's a little more work, a lot more money. Per unit is how I rent. I do have some roommate situations, but they all sign the full lease and each person is responsible for the entire lease. So I don't rent the room and define their living area or anything. I prefer by the unit because I'm super lazy. Takes less work and I don't have to deal with personality issues. One of Todd Baldwin's strategies that I think is very effective and is he hires professional cleaners for the shared living spaces so that you don't have different personalities fighting over how clean an area is, because you have an outside third party uninterested that doesn't live there that's being paid to maintain that. And that's not something I have to do. I don't care what the interior of the house looks like while the tenants live there. They live there, not me. I've actually had that conversation with somebody who was signing a lease with a friend recently for their tenants, like walking her through this, how the lease signature goes, how I break down each page. And I explained to them, I said, look, you do this, you live here, this is your place, not theirs. Outside, how it's going to impact the neighborhood, maybe fines from the city or complaints from other tenants in the same unit, the same building. Yeah, that matters, but inside, not so much. So the lazy way is to not do by room, it's do by unit. And what you said, you mentioned you want minimal amount of properties and the highest amount of cash flow, right? So I have talked about, this was my numbers last year. I have to figure out 2023 because it's in a bit of flux because I'm doing this self-funded burr. 2022, 16 rental units through the whole year. Profit after principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So all expenses aside and setting aside for future stuff was $203,000, of which I paid $0 in income tax. Because, yay, Congress. It's like Congress is full of people who own properties, who keep making laws that benefit people who own properties. So with depreciation and write-offs, I still haven't paid a penny in rental income tax. At some point in the future, I will. And people go, oh, what are you going to do then? Well, I want to be so freaking rich, making so much money. I'm going to be like, yeah, pay the taxes. Who cares? Here's what you do when I want to make sure I get the question right here. You mentioned you want minimal amount of properties and the highest cash flow. Correct. I've never done a cash out refinance. I've never taken out a home equity line of credit. I've never sold to 1031. With the least amount of cash flow, with least amount of units, what I've done is recycled cash flow, not capital. Recycling capital will get you a bigger unit count, a larger portfolio, which down the road is better. But as you're growing, there's increased cash flow by recycling cash flow, not capital. So I've never done any of those things. I've only saved a down payment, bought a property, used the binder strategy, maintain the property, fix things. Whenever there's tenant turnover, get rents even higher. So it's a little over 17,000 a month in cash flow that's coming in. Takes me 4,000 a month to live. So if I doubled what I'm doing, I would spend 8. If I'm struggling, I made a video with Three Amigos this morning on, I think I'm going to release that while I'm on my cruise, which is one of the things that the video would solve. Is I'm trying to figure out, how do you spend money? Like, a lot of people have a budget. I'm making a reverse budget. If I don't spend at least $2,000 a month on food, I've failed. If I don't buy a vehicle that costs me at least $2,000 a month, I've failed. If I don't take at least a trip a month, I've failed. And so I come back from the cruise. Yeah, I'm going to go to Thailand for 3 months. I think that one trip counts for that because there's so much to do in Thailand. That's like several different trips. So did I stop reinvesting? Not really. It built up so much. There was $500,000 sitting in the bank. I literally had to go and take it, and not cash, but a cashier's check, open up an account in another bank. So there was FDIC insurance on the money. It's a terrible problem. And I want to get you all to the same problem. And then I took the money and purchased this current purchased in cash, a duplex that has a unit that needs a rehab. And I'm going to spend about $50,000 on the rehab, paid $400,000 for the property. So I'm $450,000 by the time I'm done. I'm like $423 in right now. So I've got some more spending to do, which is kind of fun, but I'm never doing this crap again. I'm not a rehab guy. Sorry, man. I really am lazy. Even though the after repair value here, by my estimate, is $250,000 less than the other investors I've talked to. Most of the people say where I'm at, where I'm located, the views, the water access, all these things, being walking distance from the ferries, that it's about $1 million, and the comps in here say it's around $1 million. So I've estimated about $750,000. So I took $250,000 off of what other people think it's going to be conservative. ARV of $750,000, purchase price for $50,000 into it. I'm creating $300,000. I'm still not doing this again. It's not worth it, because that's the thing, JMC, is once you have reached financial freedom, more freedom doesn't matter. I'm not trying to create generational wealth. I don't want my kids to think the best thing that can happen to them is dad dies. Never be worth more dead than you are alive. My kids would kill me for a slice of pizza. But I want my kids to feel like they have to produce their own retirement. Yeah, they're going to inherit millions, right? That's an accidental byproduct of my actual goal of time freedom. Today, I took a nap. What else did I do today? I played with a chop saw, did some trim, just to do it. I did something else too, but whatever I wanted to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to do tonight. I think tomorrow I'm gonna go to Seattle again, because I'm taking the ferries over there, and my brother's going to come. We're going to hang out there because it's like, what is tomorrow? Wednesday. The reinvesting money would give me more work, more properties, more tenants. I don't want that. So the follow-up of your question is, well, what do you do? Start paying off debt? No. I worked very hard to get into this much good debt. I owe about 1.8 million, to even less than that now, $1.8 million in good debt. I worked very hard to acquire that good debt. I don't ever want to pay it off. The tenants are going to pay it off for me. As I saved money, I adjusted from I'm going to find my next small multifamily to maybe I'm going to find a BRRRR, to full cash, self-funded the BRRRR, just because I have to do something with the money. And yeah, it's another house hack. And it's in an area that I kind of wanted to live more than the area that I was at before. So there's like several factors there. Zuber explained this we had like 100 people on Zoom one time, and a gentleman asked, I'm like in my 70s, here's my portfolio, what should I do? And Zuber said, well, you don't look at yield. Where do you want to live? What do you want that to look like? That's what you're looking at now. I'm retired, financially free. I'm not looking for the best yield. Yeah, it's if the ARV is where I estimate it, there's like an 8 point something % return on my money. if I do a cash out refinance and end up using a mortgage on this and actually pull the money out, and interest rates are between 6 and 7%, it's about a 12% return on my money based on what the rents are here. And I do have videos on how to calculate the rents on a house hack. So it's getting a good real yield, but that's not actually what I was looking at. It's like, I want to deploy the funds, because here's a concept I want you to understand. When you buy a rental property, when you buy a property, whether it's a house hack or an investment property, you're not spending money. You're moving it. I purchased this property for $400,000. And yeah, I'm going to put $50,000 into it. That money's not gone. It's still there. It's in the property. It's mine. I can now take out a home equity line of credit. I can now do a cash out refinance. I can now sell. And if I live here for 2 years, I can make up to $250,000, $500,000 if I was dumb enough to get married, but $250,000 in profit and not pay any taxes on it, because yay, Congress. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question. I think I might have considered paying off debt if the interest rates were really high, 7-8%, because it's a pretty good return to pay that off. But you really don't even feel that return until it's completely paid off. I think the trick is to understand that a lot of people make this mistake of, I have so much appreciation, I have so much equity that I should cash out, refinance, sell to 1031. And whenever we talk about equity, I want you to redefine that as the ability to put debt on an existing asset. That's not your money sitting there. It is, your money is there, but if you pull it out, you're now creating debt. And JMC, thank you for being another lazy investor. I think it's important that there are more of us. Basilio, howdy. Hey, Dion, I have 6 rentals today and I want to continue growing, but I'm low on capital right now. I have been thinking about pulling out of my money from my 401k, continue investing. What are your thoughts on this? Pay the 10% penalty plus taxes and 401k money to buy more rentals. Would like to retire within the next 5 years, 5 to 8 years. All right. So the only thing missing there, Basilio, is how old are you? Don't have to answer. I'm going to give you both answers. So if you are within retirement age of being 59 and a half in those 5 years, in 5 to 8 years, when you retire, then the retirement account might make sense. But if you want to retire before then, I like the way that you said it. You have 6 rentals today, which means you probably know how to acquire properties. You know how to find a lease. You know how to screen tenants, keep tenants in place, maintain properties. You know with confidence what your expected return on an investment is. It's not a guess now. Yeah, there's some unknowns the next time you buy a property, something new, because it always does, might pop up. But you have the ability to know between a good and a really bad deal. So in that instance, I was there after about 8 years of investing in 2020. I yanked all the money out of the retirement account. I paid all the taxes and I put all the money into a triplex. I would recommend doing that. It kind of sounds like the position you're in and the position I was in. Once you have your feet under you, because our first few deals, we tend to make our biggest mistakes. I wouldn't want to put I'm going to use a term that most people do, equity in your house, the money in your retirement account at risk on those ones where we're learning and making our mistakes. I would want to save up money and put that money at risk, specifically meant to learn investing. Once you have those 6 rentals, you have your legs under you. Before you take the money out, what's your confidence level on being able to find a deal that gets you a good enough return? Because I will tell you, my opinion is retirement accounts suck. If you don't ever invest and you plan on working until you're in your 60s, have a retirement account, right? It's better than nothing. But if you learn how to invest, again, don't do it on your first couple of deals, but once you have your legs under you and you have a few rentals like that and you've got confidence in your ability and you're able to find the deals, I'm absolutely a fan of emptying it out, because there are 3 people who make money off of your retirement account, and it isn't you. You're not any one of those 3. The first is the government. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's going to delay my taxes until I'm older. Yeah, because you're hoping you're going to be broke when you retire. No, you're probably going to be in a higher tax bracket. Taxes are going to be increased in the future because have you met the government? So the government's going to make more money off of your retirement account. The second person who makes money off your retirement account that is still not you is your employer. It's a recruiting and retention tactic to get people to work there, to say, we have a retirement plan if you work here. And the third person who makes money off of your retirement account, who is still not you, is the people managing it. Because whether it increases in value or decreases in value, which means you make money or you lose money, they make money. If you work at a company that has a retirement account, I continue to contribute for the match. But I've worked at several companies that have retirement accounts, and I've worked at several who didn't. And guess who paid more? If you're choosing between companies and one company offers a retirement account and one doesn't, look at their entire package, because often what managers do, the people run the bean counters of the company, will say, we have this much money to allocate towards our employees of each level. We're going to reduce the amount that we paid, then we're going to take that amount or part of that amount and call it a match or a contribution to your retirement account. You're not making any more. So if you're there and they have it, take advantage of it, because it's part of your compensation package that they diverted from you into your retirement account. So if it exists, take advantage. If you're picking companies, I generally would pick the one that doesn't have a retirement account, and I would put my money to work into a rental where the tax benefits are 1,000 times better than a retirement account, where you're the person who benefits from the cash flow, the appreciation, the principal pay down, all of the things where you're not benefiting your employer. You are benefiting the government. They're kind of like a partner in this. That's why they give us all these tax breaks and why I've never paid rental income tax. Now, my tenants do pay a lot of property taxes, a little over $40,000 a year, but that's not me. That's the tenants. I hope that helps. It helps you choose. Angel, what's one mistake you made in real estate that actually made you more money in the long run? Mistake I made in real estate that made me learn. So the biggest mistake I think I've made in real estate that actually benefited me in the long run was, and I will apologize in advance, I personally was the cause of the 2008 housing crash. Very sorry for anything that you went through because of me. Purchased a house with a zero down, like walked away from the closing table with $1,200. First time home buyer, not even using my VA loan, because this was better than the VA loan. No mortgage insurance. First time home buyer, zero down, adjustable rate mortgage around 2000. Around 2003, had the, I guess because I have 3 kids, say the 4th best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Went through a divorce and had to refinance the property to pull out equity, the ability to put debt on an existing asset to give her portion of the equity. So now I owned a property that was worth about $100,000, refinanced for $150,000. So now I'm upside down because I was 104% levered when we started, went to 150 because prices had gone up with another adjustable rate mortgage. That was probably a ninja loan, although I was working in law enforcement, so I probably did verify income. And then when 2008 happened, and the rates, my payment went from like $1,000 to $1,800 or something overnight. I was one of the few who was able to refinance my toxic debt into an actual fixed rate mortgage. So the reason it was a mistake was buying an adjustable rate mortgage. I would never do that again. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done. And while there are people who have a large portfolio, you have 20, 30 properties, sure, having a couple on adjustable rate mortgage to get a better deal now, because if rates tripled and all of a sudden you had a bigger payment, you could just write a check and pay it off. Brilliant plan. But if you are just a home buyer, not an investor, adjustable rate mortgage is the death to your investing, to your personal finances, which is what it was for mine. That was my biggest mistake. Here's how it ended up making me a bunch of money. In 2008 to 10, I was underwater on the house. I tried renting it out, moving into an apartment to fix my debt to income problem that I talked about. And I made all of the mistakes a new landlord does, right? I can't trust a stranger. Who could do that? I better rent to a friend. And if it's renting to a friend, who needs a lease, right? It's just a handshake. And then, this guy's a single parent, so I kind of felt for his problems when rent became late, which became never. And when I went there to talk to him and say, hey, why aren't you paying your rent? He didn't live there. He had moved out, rented the house to someone else, was keeping the rent and not paying me, because that was 2 separate transactions in his mind. All of that was my fault, not his, because I set it up to happen. Well, I was so frustrated. I thought, well, obviously I can't be a landlord. I'm too dumb to do this, because I'd never listened to a podcast or picked up an audiobook or read Rich Dad Poor Dad or any of that. I didn't know about one rental at a time. I just thought, I'm going to replace my income with no education whatsoever because I'm stupid. So I couldn't give the house away. I had paid it down a bit to like $138,000. It had dropped in value back to the 100 or less that it was worth when I bought it. Subject to wouldn't even work. People couldn't take the mortgage payment over because there were so many other houses for sale that were less. And so I was stuck with it. Couldn't give it away. Couldn't give up and just go back to work and work until I died. That was the solution to me not being a landlord. And since I couldn't give it away, since I was stuck with it, that mistake I made, adjustable rate mortgage, being underwater, being over levered, I had to educate myself. I had to find podcasts, audiobooks, figure out, how does this work? Where do you find a lease at? How do you screen a tenant? Holy crap. You list a rental. There's 50 people that want to rent the place. Why did I rent to a friend? Why didn't I have a lease? The person you've never met before in your life is much more likely to stick to a lease than someone you know. Like, educating myself on how all this works, learning and developing the binder strategy, I am financially free. And instead of working for the next 20 years, I now get to spend the next 20 years living 3 times as much every year than I would have because of that mistake. That was an interesting question. Thank you. Kind of a rabbit hole. Hopefully I didn't put anybody to sleep. Hank Hill. Is that your real name? With your picture there? I don't know. We just closed on a duplex. Congratulations. Not 100% sure how it's going to turn out, even though we did our homework, but I think it's worth the risk. Better than doing nothing. Better than doing nothing. Yeah. I put my email in the chat a little bit earlier. If you want to email me your details and I can give you an outsider's opinion. I don't know your market, don't know your goals, but I can tell you, here's things I would look at. Like, is there an HOA? Are you in a state where property taxes adjust every year? Or are you in a state like California where Prop 13 says it adjusts once and then very little after that? All the other things to consider. Happy to take a look. Congratulations. Paul, howdy. Also, insurance is ridiculously expensive right now. Yeah, I've seen about an 80% increase. Now, let me explain this. I should make a video on this. An 80% increase to insurance. It's not even $100 a month. So my single family house, the insurance was between $300 and $400. So now it's like $700 a year. That's an increase of another $300 basically, divided out over 12, gives you that much per month. Rents have gone up significantly. Homeowners insurance has, let's say, doubled. My taxes went up 20%. So those costs did increase. Yeah, that impacts your margin. It impacts your profit. But it's not a deal killer. Where the deal killer happens is if you buy a property in Florida and you're just counting on your insurance being like a normal, and then you find out based on the elevation of the house, you now have flood insurance that's another $10,000 a year. That can be a deal killer. Or if you don't put insurance on your property and you get what is called lender placed or lender based, not sure, I have to look it up, lender something insurance, where they just put insurance on it. It's not insurance that you want. It covers the cost of the mortgage. It doesn't cover slip, fall, or injury, and it doesn't cover you being made whole if the house burns down. It just pays off the mortgage. And it's significantly more than what the insurance would be if you found it yourself. Oliver, howdy. Glad I made it to today's live. Thank you. I'm glad you're here too. I much appreciate it. My rent is high as it is, Gibran. Yes, it is. Rents, and they're not coming down. Maybe if you rent an apartment, in a large apartment complex, and you rent a little cell in a big city, it's soft and probably going to go down because people now can work and remotely and move further out from the city. There's I don't see rent getting better, which is why hopefully you found a channel like this and you're thinking maybe you can get on the property ladder. Maybe it doesn't mean you go buy a house. Maybe you go buy a house with an ADU and you have a tenant who pays your mortgage. And now you live for almost free, or you buy a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, because up to 4 units, it's almost the exact same loan as buying a house. And if you do FHA on a triplex or fourplex, it's still only 3.5% down. You can literally go buy $1 million fourplex if you have $35,000 for the down payment. I mean, yeah, there's reserves and closing costs and some other things, but it's not like you need $500,000 to go buy it. There are ways to get on the property ladder to make rent go away. Never worry about a rent increase again. And actually sit back and go, oh, this really sucks. Actually, I just renewed a lease with a tenant. It's here. Like, I haven't put it away because I'm that lazy. And this is my rental agreement with this tenant that I just renewed, right? I'm not going to show it because it's got their personal stuff on there. No rent increase. Same rent that they've had for 2 years. They raised their rent at the beginning of 2021, a significant increase, had the same rent for these 2 years. And now, no rent increase. because there's not rent control in Washington State. As a landlord, I can do that. If rent control was instituted, we would have had a rent increase last year. We'd have a rent increase this year. We'd be planning for the rent increase next year. Rent control makes landlords richer and more tenants homeless. Because this unit, and since I'm not sharing their name, it's a duplex where I told some friends to buy the duplex that was across the street. I went to their house to have dinner and said, I just bought this one. You should buy this one. It's for sale, same price. They'll take exactly the same price, probably the same seller. They passed because some fear crash bro friends of ours were also there who own 30 rentals, but talked him out of buying it. And now it's gained a couple $100,000 in appreciation. Rent's almost $700 more than when purchased. And so that person regrets not buying it. But that property has a unit available. Renting for $700 more than what I'm getting from my tenant. My tenant is that far below area average, and I'm able to do that. I'm able to keep it there. Now, next year, we're going to have a conversation. We're probably going to have the binder strategy. If I haven't talked that person into buying, which should be their course of action, they should be buying a duplex. They're going to have a rent increase. They're going to get the binder strategy. They're probably going to increase the rent more than I would have as a landlord. Oliver, if your tenant's bank account got hacked and had to redo new payment verification via rent site, and it happened to go past the rent grace period, would you still charge late fees or let it go? Can they verify that this is what's happening and show you proof? Some letter from the institution saying that this was hacked and this is what's happening. Trust but verify. And no, I'm human. I will make adjustments on case-by-case basis like that, as long as you're doing it without discrimination. Meaning, if somebody else came in the future and was a different race, gender, age, marital status, whatever, you would handle it exactly the same and can prove with documentation. They presented me with this issue. I asked for this proof. And because of this proof, I am a human, and we made an agreement. I would probably let the late fees go. When a tenant calls and says, hey, I'm having a life issue and I need to pay the rent late, I've actually never had a late rent payment because I have two conversations with them, and I explain the math of time. Let me know if you want to know how you can have a conversation with your tenant and never have a late rent payment again for a decade now. Remember that first tenant? That didn't go that way. But since then, I have learned. In this case, I would probably have a late payment or a late rent payment and probably not the late fees. I would ask for verification that their story was true, though. Same thing if you have a death in the family, or I've had tenants lose their job, still pay their rent on time because unemployment was enough to cover it. One of the reasons I prefer Class C neighborhoods. Jabram says, give him a pass, Oliver. And I think we were in concurrence. There you go. Is that what that means? Words are hard. Angel, do your 3-1s perform better than your 2-bedroom, 1-baths? Perform better is subjective because it's yield, right? I have very limited turnover in my 2 bedrooms from my 3-bedroom. It's about the same. My turnovers have been in my last year was a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, so it's the same. I've only had 4 in 10 years. The idea is to have properties that help you limit tenant turnover, using the binder strategy to limit tenant turnover, and having very small tenant turnover, which is not always a good thing. Sometimes the best thing is for the tenant to get the heck out, because rents can be significantly increased with the cost of a rehab, which is not my plan. I'm the lazy investor and I don't want to do rehabs. I will, I just don't want it. If you purchase a property that is a 3-1 and you purchase a property that is a 2-1, the cost to acquire for the 3-1 is usually going to be more. So does it perform better? Probably the cash flow is more, but is the yield more or less? Hard to say without knowing that initial cost. Where my 3-1s perform much better is when I purchased a duplex where each side was a 2-1 with a den, right? Which had a closet and a baseboard heater. So source of heat, source of light, 2 ways in and out. All it was missing was a wall with a door. That 3-1 performs both sides very well because it was purchased at 2-1 each side price, but is actually rented as 3-1 each side, and it's 1.25. There's a continental bathroom, which is a sink in one of the bedrooms. People in 1991 were weird. Ninja Vanish. If you have cash with no place to put it, you can always put it in the S&P 500 ETF like SPLG 0.02% expense ratio. I actually like, and there's probably a psychological theorem placed with this, but there is, and I don't remember it. I want my money that is intended to invest in the next property in a low interest saving account. I want the little lizard brain back here scratching at me every day saying, you are losing money to inflation every day. You don't find a place to invest this money. That motivation to put the money to work. Yeah. So you can put it to play that you can get 4 or 5% return interest now with CDs, with savings accounts. I still would prefer the low interest one where it was like, yep, if I can put it into a property, I will get this much of a return. I will have a new depreciation schedule to start, which doesn't suck. I didn't even think about that with a new property. That's beautiful. It's going to make me tear up. Sexy. Howdy. Is that what it is? SZG. Hey, Dion, when will I know when to refinance my duplex? I have an FHA loan looking to refi into conventional. Zillow, Redfin estimate I have enough equity with no cash down, but just barely. When do you know it's right to get an appraisal for refi? It seems like you're risking the appraisal fees if it doesn't come back high enough. You are risking that. So you can ask your realtor to do a comp for you, and there's going to be taking their time. So if they charge you $50 or something, or you take them to lunch, be great. You just like a more accurate comps in the area. Refinancing FHA right now, when did you acquire it? What's your current interest rate, and what would happen to interest rates if you refinance? I believe right now, in most cases, like 60 to 80%, like the majority of cases, you'd be doubling your interest rate. So even removing the mortgage insurance, your payment will increase. I don't know that I would do it yet because I would look at the rates also. If you're looking to use FHA loans, again, that's the drawback to having it if you want to refinance to repeat it. Do you need to use FHA? Because this is just my opinion. I'm not a lender. FHA is the worst loan product out there. It's not intended to help people get on the property ladder. It's not intended to help people own properties. It's actually a tool the government invented in 1934 because we had the Great Recession going on. We had over 2 million construction workers out of work. They came up with the Federal Housing Authority to back mortgages so people could build homes to put people to work. It was meant to employ the construction workers. It's been used 4 or 5 times since then to shorten the duration of recessions. You can look it up. It's like 48, 58, 73 or something, where during recessions, the use of FHA loans spikes by 5%. There's more FHA loans, which makes more commerce happens, which shortens the length of a recession. And none of that was the intention to get people on the property ladder. People think FHA is to help first-time homebuyers because it has an F and an H in it. And that's not it. It's Federal Housing Authority. Using your FHA the first time, I would have went with that duplex with a 5% conventional. That's actually what I did. My first duplex was a 5% conventional. I didn't even use my V8 loan because my 5% conventional loan was better for what I was doing. It's easier to get accepted by the sellers. There were other offers that were at the exact same amount as mine. They still picked mine because it was a conventional, wasn't FHA, wasn't VA. That's what I would be looking at. What's it going to do to your rate? Are you going to go from 3% to 6.5? Maybe not the best thing to do. If you have an FHA loan, you are only allowed to have one at a time. So if you wanted to use FHA again, yeah, I could see refinancing to do it. But if your debt to income ratio doesn't suck, and if your credit score doesn't suck, look at conventional. If you're refinancing to get rid of mortgage insurance, that makes sense when interest rates are flat or trending down. They've doubled in the last couple of years. So it would depend on where yours is at now. JMC, your content is a gem. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Keep doing what you do. And thank you for the brilliant and thorough advice. I really hope it helps. Michelle, calculate what your payment would be at today's interest rates. It might not make sense to even removing the PMI insurance. Thanks, Michelle. Although timing is not ideal, my main goal is to get rid of this FHA and get a property using FHA. I would look at conventional. I mentioned it. I would really consider it. It's a better loan product. And there are lenders who will do 5% down on a duplex. Yeah, 5% is a little more than the 3.5. But If you're looking at a triplex or a fourplex, now FHA does make more sense because 3.5 sticks all the way up to 4 units. But conventional is the better loan. And when you go to lose the mortgage insurance with a conventional, it's not a refinance. It automatically goes away when you hit 22% equity. Yeah, there might be an appraisal fee. Yeah, you might have to ask your lender, but so much better than FHA. And no one is ever going to ask you this stupid question. Why are you buying the property? Because FHA is not intended to help anyone buy an investment property. So they'll say, this is where Matt, the lumberjack's landlord's strategy of 4-3-2-1 comes from. If you buy a fourplex, you can buy a triplex because it's closer to what a single family house is like. And then from triplex to duplex because it's closer. And then from duplex to single family, and then single family to larger single family to single family that's closer to your work in a better school district. You have to beg a lender for permission to use their product and make them a bunch of money. No. Go conventional if you can. Now, if your debt to income sucks, and work on it, and if your credit rating sucks, work on it. Maybe FHA, but conventional is the better option. Ninja Vanish, 500 if you are done buying properties. I must have missed. If you have cash with no place to put it, oh yeah, there you go. If you're done buying properties, good point. Yeah, there at some point, I've actually got some friends and neighbors here. They're really cool, but they had like 11 rentals and they're moving it into, he said it, I'm not a stocks guy. Dividend stocks, I think is where he was going. There might have been another term he was using. Out of it, because they're a little bit older than me. And that's kind of, some people's strategies. They're not this old, but they're like in their later 50s. But a lot of people get into their 60s and their 70s and think, I don't want to manage stuff anymore. So they start offloading, taking the money and putting it into dividend stocks. My strategy is to meet somebody like Millennial Mike, who was 30 when I was 50. So he'll be 50 when I'm 70. And then I just seller finance my entire portfolio to him and tell my kids, sucks to be you. Should have bought your own stuff. And then he has all my properties and I live off of the cash flow. Michelle to SGZ, got it. Talk to banks, see what they say. They will go off on average between different value sites and see if your 80-20 is close and give you a good idea. I'm sure Dion will have an answer, a similar and different answer. I don't know if it was better. Wealth building journey. One of the benefits of being wealthy, only those with the ability to pay income tax are the ones who can afford to pay them. Everyone else has to offer the government an interest-free loan of the year. True. Those who will have an IRA, check your expense ratio. Everything over 0.5%, your fund manager is bleeding you dry. It ends up being hundreds of thousands over years. Wealth building journey, secret, low cost index funds. Now back to real estate. Angel R, 100%. Thank you. All-nighter hider. Howdy. Here we can start now. Wish I was good at Robin Williams doing the talk backward thing. I would say update you. Had an awesome Taco Tuesday date with my daughter. Awesome. That's my excuse for being late. Nice. I had a sushi date with my daughter, one of my daughters, this last weekend. I would miss a live stream to go to dinner with her. She's turned into an amazing human being. Devil, demon thing when she was 14, but oh my God. Actually, both my daughters were. And now they're amazing. So if you're a parent and you think that's rough when they're 8 or 12, something magical happens at 14. And all of your karma hits you all at once. My water needed a water chaser because my water was making my eyes water. Sean. Oh, all night ahead. This is your friendly neighborhood reminder to hit the like button, which I would appreciate. That lets YouTube know that not everybody hates my content. Sean. Howdy. Acquired a fourplex with tenant on month to month and no security deposit. Sellers don't raise rents for 7 years and they are paying $400 a month when fair market rent is $900 a month. Thoughts? No issues so far. And then I see all night. I had to put a link in there to the binder strategy. So Sean, if you're kind of newer to my content, one of the things I think most known for, other than stunning looks, bad stunning, is the binder strategy. So a couple of things are a factor here. Know your local laws. Are you impacted by rent control? If you're in California and this is a fourplex, right? So it's above house and duplex, it might be impacted by rent control, even if it's in your own name, right? So you have to know your local laws. If you're in a place that doesn't have rent control, so if you have rent control, you might consider cash for keys. How much can you pay the tenant to tell them, look, I have to renovate the property to get you out to set the rents where they need to be? Maybe that last part is something you keep to yourself, but you need to renovate the unit, so they're going to go. And you're going to give them money to help them move, because you're going to make significantly more once they're gone. If you're not in rent control, here's the binder strategy. It's a free course. It's not a bait and switch. You don't get halfway through and then I say, oh, and if you pay me more, you'll get the secret sauce at the end. I literally share the first video. This is how it works. And then I break down how it works at a distance, how it works with property management, how it works with a Section 8, how it works, right? All the ways to break it down, all the nuances to it. Your tenants will ask for the rent to go up. They won't ask for it to go more than 900. They probably won't get very close to 900, but they'll be very high compared to the 400 that you are now, much more than you. If you raise it $100, they're going to call you a jerk. If you use the binder strategy, they're probably going to raise it to $750, maybe 800, and thank you when you agree. Happy tenants don't leave. Happy tenants don't trash your property. And here's why getting $750 a month is better than getting $900 a month. And this is the part that a lot of people miss with the binder strategy. To get the $900 a month, often you have to kick the tenant out, which could be, now they're going to trash the place because you're kicking them out. You're going to do it legally and say, I'm doing a renovation. Maybe you give them cash for keys. So you're out the money for cash for keys, or they're going to trash the place because you're kicking them out. Then you have to spend the $5,000 to $20,000 on a rehab, on flooring, paint, some appliances, whatever needs fixed, right? It's livable while they're there, but it would be upgraded if it was going to be a new rental to get that fair market rent of $900, maybe even more, right? What's the return on $20,000 and the tenant turnover and the lost months while the rehab's going versus a 10-minute conversation where you literally watch the course, the binder course, and you learn how to do it, and you make a binder. You literally have, this is the last one that I did, a binder. So I call it a binder. You can do it through email too, like Matthew Lamberdick Landlord does, or I do it when I do it with Section 8 or property manager or at a distance, and have the tenant ask for the rent to go up. I know it's confusing, and I'm not giving the whole story now, but if you take the course, it's free. Inside the course is also my spreadsheet on how I track income and expenses with an Excel spreadsheet made between me and my CPA, and my seller financing pitch letter, which is given for free in that course. So diontalk.com/binder, and there's a link in the chat. Thank you, All Night Hider. So that's my thoughts. You can just kick him out and raise the rent if it's legal in your area, and probably makes you a horrible human being. And what most landlords do, they want to buy a vacant property so they can rehab it and get best rents. I get it. I get the strategy. I'm lazy. I started investing when I was working full-time and raising 3 kids, and I didn't want to do rehabs. I'm doing one now while I'm retired and still don't want to do it. Can you hear me when I whisper? I still don't want to do it. It's an experience. I'll get some content. Me and Millennial Mike broke into the basement to find out there is a basement. But I prefer to buy a property exactly like that, where the tenant is significantly below area average rents. They know they've been getting a good deal. They're expecting to get kicked out. They're expecting me to just jack the rents up more than they can afford. And then I sit down with the binder and have a conversation. And I show them what the other rentals are going in the area, what they're going to be paying if they moved, what I could get if they moved out. And then I tell them I'm lazy and I don't want them to move and I don't want to disrupt their life. But what do you think is fair? What would be fair for them? What would be fair for me? Because they're going to suggest something maybe possibly that's really fair for them and not fair for you. And then you have a conversation that gets the rents where you want it. I've had times where I wanted the rents to go up $150, maybe $200, and the tenant suggested $410. I've had times where I wanted the tenants to leave and they suggested $410, and I accepted, and they're still there and they watch my content. Happy that you're there, happy that you're tenants, but I wanted to do short-term rental with your property for videos. I'm not going to kick you out to make content on YouTube. Want that better rent makes it easier for me. Daniel, howdy. I'm in Florida, have gotten a deal done in 21 and 22, but feel stuck with finding a deal now. I have found a bank-owned single family. I put an offer on. The cash on cash is 7%, whereas my previous were 10%. So, okay, the average in my area is about 2%. but a high yield savings gets 5%. Is 7% still worth risk, appreciation, tax advantages, or should I wait to get my 10%? I don't know that I would wait for the 10%. I would study the market. When you were getting 10% in 21 and 22, what was the area average? Was it 2% and you found the 10% as amazing deals? Or was it you could find 5 to 7% and you got a 10 and now the market shifted and most deals are 2%. And if you got that 7, that's a good deal. Because remember, we're trying to beat the area average, right? That's what makes it a good deal. That it kind of makes it a good deal. What Matt, the lumberjack landlord, pointed out is that protects you from buying a bad deal, right? It's a better, my opinion, a better way of looking at it. Kind of clarified it a bit. And I have a video and I'm going to try to do this in the Cliff Notes version. So this will take less than 5 minutes. If I can do this in less than 5 minutes, giving more people a chance to put questions in the comments that I'm going to answer. Live stream will go on as long as the questions do. And my voice handles because the water. A 5% return with a rental property, cash on cash return, versus a 10% return in a savings account or stock market or whatever, but a savings account or stocks. Okay, let's look at this. 5% on the rental property, 10% on the other asset. Let's say stocks. We're going to pick stocks. You're going to get 10% return on stocks. Is that what you said, or did you say use the 5% high yield savings account? So you're going to get 5% in a savings account or 5% with real estate. The 5% with real estate, or with the 5% with a savings account, is taxed. That is income. The 5% with real estate is passive income, which means you get to use write-offs and depreciation against that income. So I've never paid property taxes. I've never paid taxes on rental income. My tenants pay the property taxes. So you get a 5% cash flow here, 5% cash flow here. This is taxed. Then the property that you're purchasing, if you're going to get a 7% return, but we're saying 5, that's the cash flow. On average, properties appreciate 5% per year. Yes, the last couple of years we saw 20, 24%, right? But we're going to say 5%. But you're getting 5% on 4 times what you invested. You put $100,000 into a rental, you're buying a $400,000 duplex. You put $100,000 in the savings account, you're getting $5,000 in. So it's $5,000 in interest that is taxed, $5,000 in cash flow that is not taxed, plus appreciation on $400,000. So now that's $20,000 that it's grown. 5% of $400,000 is $5,000 per 100, so $20,000 increase. Your tenants are going to pay off about 1% of your mortgage, so there's another $4,000. Then the tax benefits, and that's year 1. So the first year on only a 5% return on your rental is 5% for cash flow, 1% for pay down, so that's 6, 20% for appreciation, that's 26%. Versus 5% that's taxed. I'm not going to tell you which way to choose. I'm going to ask you, what's bigger? 5% that's taxed or 26% in internal rate of return? That's why I own rental properties. Oliver, what's the latest book you are reading? What the Night Knows by Dean Koontz. Started it last night. What is the most recent real estate financial book that I'm reading? Because it's after I'm finished. So I go through a cycle. Here's how this is an overshare. I about 3/3 and divide my books into thirds, right? So the first one is I read fantasy, sci-fi, Dean Koontz, Michael Crichton, Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, all those kind of books as a complete time waster to enjoy a good narrative. Then I was doing, and I've kind of slowed down on this, about 1/3 on business and growth, right? I was running a truck driving school and I was trying to be good at doing that. And then the other third is finances and real estate. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Set for Life, Cash Flow Quadrant, like all of those kind of books. I think the next one is either Millionaire Fastlane or The 4-Hour Work Week, one of those two, because I haven't actually listened to those. And I do listen because I'm doing a bunch of other stuff while I read. I think I retain better with listening too. So there you go. In general, the higher the return the interest rate on the higher risk and vice versa. Illinois REI. Howdy, I wonder what you do. That's a great name. I like it. No question from me. Just wanted to say hi. I appreciate these streams. Dion, good luck with the ongoing rehab. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's windows are done. Windows are in. Next is siding. Might order or get done while I'm on my cruise. Then insulation. Electric's done. Electric passed inspection. Yay, we begged for permission to be able to work on our electricity here. I hate permits. Get them. Make your work legal. Right? I just hate the whole process. Another reason why I don't want to do rehabs. You have to go and ask permission to have a professional do professional work at your house. In the dictionary under redundant, it says see redundant. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. Again, first and last rehab. Cody, howdy. Would you show the fair market value during the binder strategy? Yeah. Yep. Fair market. And I would say this is Section 8. They only pay per bedroom. So literally right now I've got a person moving out of a 2-bedroom where fair market is about 400 above where they were in 2024 with this new big increase. So guess who's going to be seeing all fair market rents for those in that county? Yeah, I include fair market. I also include low income because you want to point out sometimes, look, there's a property over here, mine's for rent for 2,000. Here's fair markets, 2,000, 1,900, whatever. Here's all the comps I'm showing you that are 23, 2,400. Here's the binder strategy. Here's one over here for rent for 1,400. That's low income. If you qualify, you should go there. But do you qualify? If you don't qualify, that's why this isn't a factor. And these are the ones we have to actually use. Fair market rent for Section 8. And Section 8 doesn't include things like you have a shed here that wouldn't count for them. You have a garage here that wouldn't count for them. This is just based on bedrooms. Literally, one of the purposes of the binder strategy is to educate the tenants. Here's how landlords come up with their rent. What could I get if you weren't here? Yep, all-nighter hider says it's shared. I agree. Off-building journey, all-nighter hider. I had been in listen-only mode for a while. SCG. Thanks, Dion. Really appreciate all the knowledge you shared. Thank you very much. To your credit, the binder strategy hasn't come up on audio yet. I took it up on myself to share early. Well, nice. Candace, howdy. Finally caught you live. How is the house hack burr going? Pretty good. My units, I'm redoing the bathroom and the kitchen here. So the kitchen's still going, bathroom's done. What I'm doing with the bathrooms in my units when there's a rehab, I'm doing it in the other unit as well. And this is one of my forms of legal discrimination. No bathtubs. Only walk-in showers, less likely to have people move in who have kids. Not that I would say no to kids. I have tenants who have kids. I would just prefer people had 17 Rottweilers and 8 Dobermans than 1 2-year-old. The dogs will do less damage than the kid. So I don't discriminate. I make my properties more attractive to the type of tenant that I want. Just like when I say I want 1/3 military, 1/3 Section 8, 1/3 working or retired, I don't put that in the ad saying military only or Section 8 only. I just control where I advertise. If I advertise on base, who do you think I'm going to get? If I call the housing authority and say, here's the link to the property that becomes available on Tuesday, who's going to apply first? So that's how that's going. And then I broke it down just a minute ago. Siding, insulation, electric's done. It's rough in done. And then when drywall's done, then I'll finish electric. What's left after that? Kitchen. The kitchen from my unit, I moved to the other unit and put in a new one where I'm at. Yeah, just a better layout. So that's how that's going. Yes, Cody, I would print out the website of the fair housing, especially when you see a big increase like this coming for next year. I'll let how you just sushi date last week. Nice. Me and Millennium Mike, actually, we go to sushi every now and then. And it's funny. I don't think either one of us actually like sushi. We go to Trappers, which is, I don't know if they're nationwide or local. There's the chain. I think there's 8 or 9 of them around here. And they have this thing called the Vader, which is it's scallops and seasoned and sauce, and it doesn't taste like sushi because I'm not a kelp fan. But there you go. I love building journey. All teenage years sound scary. I don't know. At 15, it was like the switch went off, and they were all great kids. Candace, we close on a household burr in 10 days. Hopefully our family of 7 will move there. Awesome. Congratulations. That's a great move. Somebody earlier asked, what's your bulletproof investing strategy? And if you put a house hack in there, it's a challenge because you and your family have to make adjustments to whatever you're doing for this house hack. But the long-term goals, I talk every now and then about Joe Kuhn, who retired with the stock method. He also did some, what I would call live-in flips, where he lived and improved the properties. After a couple of years sold, he used the IRS 121 rule to realize up to, I don't know how much he made, but up to 500,000, because he is married and been successfully doing it with just one person. I never pulled that off. I was able to keep the house and the kids, never able to keep a girl around. But take that money and add it to his investing, because he invests in stocks. So it's a really good strategy to add to what you're doing. Price and pride. If you're not a slumlord and actually take care of and improve your properties. Yeah, that's the thing. One of the problems with the advice that new landlords get, they'll go into a place like the Choose FI group, right? Which is primarily a stock group. I totally get it. And they'll say, I've got a rental and I want to raise the rents. What do I do? And you'll see just comment after comment of people who've never owned a rental or used to and failed say, never raise the rents on a good tenant because you'll lose the good tenant. Well, if you don't raise the rents, you lose a good asset. So one of the aspects of raising the rents is you actually have the funds. Like, I look forward to a tenant calling and saying, there's this problem and it costs me $2,000, right? Because it doesn't cost me anything. The money I'm setting aside from the gross rents that takes care of repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, replaces the water heater, replaces the garage door motor, whatever the problem is. And now my asset has that thing that my tenants paid for. That's to raising the rents, not above area average, not ripping people off, not above what the property's worth, but watching what's going on with area average rents and the 5 things I talked about that are raising your rents right now, which I will list off here at the beginning of the video. I won't make you go back and watch that really quick. But the first is the threat of nationwide rent control, which makes landlords raise the rent. The second is remote work, meaning people can rent bigger places further out from work. Third is the massive increase to fair market rents that's hitting most markets. The 2 counties I'm in, it's a significant increase. The raise in basic allowance for housing. So military people on or near military installations that are living near them or attending college and getting the GI Bill because they're paid BAH while they're attending college went up over 12% last year. And it's going up again 3% next year on top of that 12%. And then the 5th one is that prices and interest rates are making it really hard to buy, which causes more people to rent longer, increasing demand on rentals. If you have these justifications and area average rents are going up and you are raising your rents, you now have the funds to put in new windows, to rip out a sliding glass door and put in French doors just because they're nicer, just things that protect your property. You have the money to do that and you're okay. And yeah, the sliding glass door had failed and had moisture in it. So it was a reason for that. But Alantino, howdy, good to see you back here. Dion, what is a healthy cash flow for a rental property? Elementary question, but I'm learning. It's a great question. I don't know that it's elementary. It's one of the most important ones, right? It's the fundamental, because I like the way you asked, what is a healthy cash flow for a rental property? A lot of people, when they're asking a question very similar to that, they will say, how much cash flow do I need per door? Or how much do you get per door? And I can tell you how much I get per door because I've made videos on it, but that's not what matters. What we're looking for is if you look at the question that just came up earlier, and I forget where it was when I was talking about it, but it was the yield, 5% cash on cash return versus a savings account, right? The yield is what matters. And here's the quickest, I'm going to, for me, not for you, for me, I'm going to simplify this as much as possible. Yield is cash flow. Cash flow is annual profit divided by cost to acquire. So maybe Alantino, write that down. Annual profit divided by cost to acquire. So that's the whole thing, but I'm going to break it down so those are clear. Cost to acquire, some people will say, well, it's a down payment. It's a down payment. Closing costs, because you've got appraisal, inspection, title, fees. So down payment, closing costs, money for immediate repairs. How much work do you have to do to make it rent ready? Sometimes it's $50, $100. Sometimes it's 50 grand, right? This one I'm buying, the make rent ready, the estimate from the contractor was 30,000. I'm pretty sure it's going to hit 50. So I'm estimating 50,000 for the make rent ready cost. So that's your cost to acquire. Annual profit is what you make. So all sources of income. If there's parking or storage shed or laundry with coin operated, and most of those I don't recommend charging for, but you want to count any income that you have, your rents, all the money coming in minus your expenses. So you're going to take out principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So your mortgage comes out. And then you have to take out, if you have property management, you're going to take out for that. If you're going to, and you want to take out a percentage that you choose, and I choose 10% for repairs and maintenance and 5% for vacancy. So 15%, those two things together, of gross rents. If I have $1,000 coming in, 150 goes into an account, right? That's for future costs. What's left is your profit. Then you take that every month times 12 to get your annual profit, divide by cost to acquire. If you paid $10,000, if you paid $100,000 for a property and you made $10,000 in profit, that's a 10% cash on cash return, because 10,000 divided by 100,000 will get you 10%. So what you do is, this is what matters to me. I have a minimum cash flow. I wouldn't want a rental that made less than $100 a month, right? That the risk to manage a tenant is probably not worth it. But that's not the goal. The goal is a return. If I invest $100,000 into a property, I want to make at least $10,000 a year. That's a 10% return. Sometimes the goal is to make 7%, 15%. Lumberjacks made 20 something percent. My goal in my area, because I was able to find several that have 7 or 8% return, so I shot for 10. So I'm trying to find a better than the area average. If the area average in your area is 3%, you shoot for 5 or 6. If the area average is 20%, you shoot for 23 or 24. Right? You're trying to beat the area average when you're looking at a lot of deals. And the sun is murdering me. There's never a problem in Washington State. So it's not a cash flow per property or a cash flow per door. It's what is my yield and does it beat the area average? And so that's how I've calculated it. But then I added a minimum. And for me, I've never had to worry about the minimum because I'm in a high cost of living area where each property's been, at a minimum $70,000 for the down payment after the first, house hack. And I do have a formula for running the numbers on a house hack too. There's a couple of videos on my channel. If you want to look up how to calculate the numbers on a house hack, it's there. But that is an elementary question, but it's one of the most important ones because nothing else matters. We start with math. Then we go through, is it in my footprint, the market that I want to invest, where I have trusted boots on the ground? Are there enough economic drivers around there that makes it a safe place to invest so that if something happens, like a base or a port or something closes down or moves away, will I still have sources of tenants like a large population, hospitals, colleges, Boeing or Amazon, right? Some other large employers. And that's the physical aspects of the market. And then you have the physical aspects of the property. Are you looking at the property? Is there enough parking for what you want to do? Is there washer and dryer hookups inside the units? Are there enough bedrooms in the garage or whatever matters in your area that you're renting for to help attract and keep tenants, right? Math is step one. So it's an elementary question, but it's the first one we start with. Then we still have this cascade of other questions that we go through because math doesn't tell us to buy the property or not buy the property. Math tells us to take a deeper look or to dismiss the property. Alex, I waited for 24 hours and fell asleep right before the stream. Missed most of it. So sorry. G. Boland, howdy. I really do appreciate all the education you have given us. Thank you. I appreciate that you guys are here. These questions, like Alantino's question, is what tells me this is what needs to be shared. The thing I really like about the live streams, and I say this every now and then in the live stream, is an investor can research a topic, can go, here are 5 reasons why rents are going to increase, and then have an articulate reason why each one of those 5 things applies to the current market. But did I have to keep that in my mind to look at a rental to decide if I'm going to buy it or not, to do anything in my real estate portfolio. It's nice to know. It's nice to kind of have a sense of things to watch out for. But when I have a question of, well, how do I know if it's a good deal or what's a minimum cash flow? And I go, oh, here's how you calculate yield. Here's what yield is. Here's how you get there. Those are things that have to be in your mind, top of mind awareness as an investor, because you can make really quick decisions when you're looking at something. That's how you know an investor knows this. If somebody asks me a question and my response is, and I've had these questions where I go, I really don't know. That's a CPA question or an attorney question. And this is the questions I would ask to get the information. That means I didn't need to know that. I don't need to know how depreciation works. I don't want to. I don't want to know what bonus, scheduled, amortized, none of that. I want to know, I give my information to my CPA, presented in the format of the spreadsheet that you can get in the free binder course. And the CPA does all of the magic that he is or she is educated in to get me the best return. Results from that. I don't want to know how they work. I just want to know that Congress is full of people who own properties who keep magically making laws that benefit people who own properties. Adam, howdy. How much cash flow do you have after paying for your new duplex and renovations? So it's tricky. The room that I moved out of, because I was renting a roommate's there, it's $1,000 a month more increase for that room. So that's an increase because there's no extra cost. I don't pay any of the utilities there. Tenants cover all that. And so it's just another $1,000 coming in. The other unit here, I think I'm renting for $1,800. A lot of what I see around here for where it's at will go for $2,000, $2,200 without a problem. Fair market rent here is above $1,800. So I'm trying to be very conservative in these numbers without a mortgage. So all I have to worry about here is repairs and maintenance and vacancies. So I'm setting aside 5% or 15% of what I would be collecting if both units were rented, because it's a house hack. And then property taxes and insurance, which is about $300 a month for, let me see. No, it's like 400, just like $20 a month, because the insurance isn't much, but the taxes are, yeah, they're less than $300 a month for the taxes, much less than $100 a month. Yeah, so it's less than $400 a month that I'm going to set aside. So I'm going to be making another, I would say $1,200 here, plus the $1,000 there. So it's an increase of $2,200 easily without raising the rents much on the other unit, which I might even short-term or mid-term since I'm here. But I kind of want a long-term tenant that will take care of the place when I'm gone, because I'm going to be gone a lot. My first trip after this cruise is a 3-month trip to Thailand, so I don't know what's going to happen after that. I wasn't looking at yield as much when I purchased this, as much as I was looking at where do I want. It's a beautiful 2-side wraparound full deck views. It's got the hot tub where I wanted it. It's right on the water. I'm walking distance to the ferries. Like tomorrow, my brother's coming over. We're taking a ferry to Bremerton, a ferry to Seattle. We're going to walk the waterfront down there. So if you're in or around Seattle, I'm very sorry for where you chose to live, but I'm going to be on the waterfront, which is not a bad place, kind of decent down there. That's why I chose this. It's kind of where I wanted to live, the retired area that I wanted to be in. It's why I wasn't looking at, oh, I've got to commute to work. It's just where would I want to live, walking distance to the downtown of the town that I'm in, where the bars and restaurants are. But I've heard bars are fun. I should try one of those one of these days. So that's what the cash flow looks like, Adam, on this. Not there yet, though, because, well, that room is rented. This place, rehab's halfway done, maybe a little bit more. And I see we have a super chat from Alantino. Thank you. And thank you so much for all this value. Does your course cover all of this? I need a holding hand kind of walkthrough. It does, it covers it. And oh, thank you for asking about the course. It's not something I actually promote much. I should do that. We just wrapped up the August course live Zoom weekends. September, I'm going to be gone on a cruise for most of it, so we're not doing Zoom weekend meetings this month, but October. So what I'm going to do for the entire month of September is I'm going to take the price from, what was it, $795 down to $695. So it's going to be $100 off for the whole month of September, and all of the month of October. Every Saturday we're going to have a 1-hour Zoom call, maybe Sunday. I'm going to take a poll of course members. I'll probably take the poll on YouTube here of Saturday or Sunday work better, 4 in the afternoon. And I also have to watch when the next, I'm a teaching assistant for the BiggerPockets boot camp, rookie boot camps, and I have to make sure they don't cross times, right? Okay, cross streams of when I'm doing their teaching assistant stuff versus when I'm doing my course. So Valentino, if you're looking to do the course, give me a day to make sure I get the price set to $100 off. And then for the entire month of October, every weekend, we're going to do a full, at least an hour. Sometimes it's longer and nobody has to stay longer, but you can come up for the hour where we all just jump on Zoom together and you ask questions. We talk your market, we talk deals, we talk strategies. So it's a lot more, not quite one-on-one. I do one-on-one stuff, but there's in the course, and it's usually sometimes those videos, even though they do get uploaded later for Futureland. I've seen a couple times where it was me and Frank for a while till everybody else jumped in, and then there'd be like maybe 5 or 6 people. So it's not like there's 100 people and you can't get your question in, or you have to do a super chat to get your question in. Yeah, so that's how that would work. And it covers all of this. It covers literally how to do this the lazy way. The binder course is free. You can go to the website that All Nighter Hydro linked above, and you can take the binder course for free. It covers how to do the rent stuff, but it's not how to invest the lazy way, how to find a market, how to pick your strategy, the steps to doing this, the nuts and bolts of how this works. That's what's in there. But I'll be clear before you buy the course, everything that's in the course is here on YouTube. Right? I don't do, here's all my information except for this little thing that will make it work. To get this, you've got to buy the course. That would be stupid. That's what most gurus do. Everything is here on thousands of videos. Some of them are 2 or 3 hours long that you can filter through, and eventually you would know all of it. Or the point of the course is more one-on-one interaction. We get into Zoom, we interact with each other. You get all of the information specifically tied to reaching financial freedom in 10 years or less, the lazy way, the consistent way, broken down where it's just that content and not the things like everything that we do on YouTube to try to grow a channel. And I say we, it's the royal we. This is me. I don't have anybody helping me with this. So if you're going to do the course, it's because you want those things and you want to shorten the amount of content that you need to take in to get it more refined. If you want to save the money, everything is here on YouTube. It's the same way with Zuber's course, one rental at a time. He's 11,000 videos. Everything is on YouTube. But he has a course if you want to do it shorter. Figure out where I was at here in my chat because it moved, which I appreciate. Chat moving means questions are coming in. So the cash flow, I think after this, so it was a little over 17,000 a month when I had 16 units. So now you'll add 2,200, so 19 grand a month with 18 units. Somebody teach me how to spend money. Just find a girl who liked to travel. They don't exist. I don't think. 5 of you just went, wait, did he say girl? Is he straight? Peter, at what year do you start seeing the tax benefits? Year 1. That first year. Moved from my house into an apartment to rent out the house to start getting tax, rental income on my tax returns. I talk about this often so that I could get my debt to income ratio fixed, right? But do you know what that did? It turned my house, which was a primary house purchase, into a rental, which meant I could immediately start depreciating the house to offset the rental income that I would have got if I wasn't a tard and rented to a friend. Tax benefits start day 1. The rental income offset off by depreciation. Then when I got the duplex, right? So I'm 2 years in of saving and I move into the duplex. 50% of the duplex that I immediately moved into, because I'm only living in half of it, right, was depreciable. And part of the duplex is a write-off because you need a home office to run your rental property. So it was like 100 square feet of what I did there. So that was a write-off. It's like Congress is full of people who own properties who keep making laws that benefit people who own properties. It's a weird, magical, weird thing going on. Tax benefits continue. One of the rules that I hear often talking about is always be buying, right? ABC, always be closing. Every time you get a new property, you start a new depreciation schedule, because eventually 30 years down the road, you have all your properties, your tenants paid off all the mortgages. So you have all this income coming in, not very many expenses going out, and you're going to pay taxes. My plan for that period in time is to pay taxes. Imagine you purchased a house right now in 83. So you've had it for 30 years, if my math is right. So you've had it for 30 years, it's paid off. So the house was purchased in 83 for probably 50 grand. Now it's worth 400,000. So if it's worth 400,000, it's probably rented for 2,000 or 3,000. So you have, say, $2,500 a month coming in rent. Let's go 2,000. We'll even make it smaller. You only have 2,000 a month coming in rent. That's $24,000 a year coming in. Now you're going to take out property taxes, insurance. You've depreciated it because 27 and a half years passed while it was being paid off. So yeah, you're going to pay some taxes on that. You still have a rental you paid $50,000 for that technically the tenants paid for because you only did the down payment when you bought it. All it fully paid off, all pure cash flow after setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, and property taxes and insurance. Who cares if you have to pay some taxes on that? So 2053, no, 20, yeah, this current place, 2053, Dion is probably going to be paying some taxes. The beautiful thing with that is they'll be fully depreciated, and I will probably have them all in a trust. And when I pass, my trust goes to the kids, and we have this beautiful thing called the stepped up tax system, where the depreciation is reset to zero and it starts over. Almost like people in Congress have kids. Nice. Daniel, thank you. Love it. Thanks for that breakdown, as always. No, thank you. Next comes the water blame. It is the water blame. The water's rough. Water's brown today, too. That's not good. You have brown water. I don't know if I can show it with the camera because I'm out of the clear water. And I'm not a fan of brown water. JMC, are you going to play Starfield? It just came out. It did just come out. It comes out tomorrow for the people who didn't pay for early access. I'm a Skyrim fan, but I've never played 2D Skyrim. I play VR. So when Starfield goes VR, I will probably play it. I'm trying to play Baldur's Gate 3, not my kind of game. But I have some friends who play, so I can play with them. I'm a D&D player, so I love the D&D aspect of Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm thinking about making a video on a separate channel that just says why Baldur's Gate sucks. And it will be summed up. I have never in my life watched a cutscene. Don't care, will never. If I wanted to watch a movie, I'd go watch a movie. And I don't want to play pre-made characters. And Baldur's Gate is about the cutscenes on their pre-made characters, and both of that ruins the game for me. This segue brought to you by the water. Sorry. The wealth building journey. Wait. All Night Hydra. Did you know gullible is not in the dictionary? I think Ronald Reagan said that, right? The wealth building journey. The whole goal is to beat the current percentage of inflation. Those who do are way ahead of the competition. Saving alone won't cut it. The secret is to save up enough to money to invest. Totally agree. Zuber from One Rental at a Time has a shirt that says, I used inflation to get rich. Ask me how. And it's totally true. It sucks. Like, there's this ethical moral problem of there are slumlords out there. Right? There are bad cops out there. There are bad truck drivers out there. There's bad everything, right? And so the few kind of screw it up for everybody. There are some landlords out there who are slumlords. So if you're charging the right amount of rent, which means not above area average, not more than what your place is worth, and you're actually fixing it up, there are people who don't want to own. People who want to be able to rent, work there for a couple of years, move to another area, work there for a couple of years. They don't want to own properties. They don't want to have to maintain the properties. They don't want to have to deal with anything of home ownership. They want to be able to call when something breaks and have somebody else fix it. The landlord that owns the rentals provides that. There are people who want to rent Section 8, but there's not enough units because landlords can make more money renting to the public. So we get this nice increase with the fair market rent for 2024. So more Section 8 units. But that moral dilemma goes into, there are some people who say some really dumb things. I've had people say, Dion, I'm really glad I'm not in your position. You have all of those rentals and interest rates just doubled. Yes, they did. And I have 30-year fixed rate debt. So that higher interest rate is why people can't buy houses and there's more renters and I'm going to make more money, right? Like the thing you think is a negative is a good thing for me. Because of inflation, I'm going to get wealthier. So I fear, like have genuine concern for the person, and I'm hopeful that somebody like Alentino is this person that I have fear for, who's at some point in their life, most of us only had one source of income. We had a job. If we sell our lives 1 hour at a time to get the paycheck. And then we find content like this and we realize, wow, that weird looking guy, he never has to work again in his life. And he's late and he plays video games. Like, that's possible? How's that possible? And then you open your mind and you go, I can buy investment properties. I can be frugal for a couple of years, save my money. Saving is not good, but saving the money to put it to work is good. Once you put the money to work and you get enough of your soldiers running out to bring more soldiers in, you never have to work again in your life. You can. I could choose to go get a job. I'm not gonna, but I could. Don't need to. So my concern, that ethical dilemma is inflation. As much as it sucks for most people, is phenomenal when you are the property owner. My debt is easier to pay because the debt doesn't go up, but the rents do. My increase of property insurance of 80% is easier to pay because what caused inflation? Rising wages impacted, it's one of the guesses from several people, rising wages impacted rents. And the more you can make, so the transient person working remotely now can raise rents too. It means you're making much more rent than an 80% increase in property insurance. Inflation makes you wealthy if you're on the right side of the fence. And most people, I want to say like 90% of the people don't know there's a fence. Angel R. So only one stand-up shower for the whole unit. Is it a 3-1? So my new one is 2. It's two bedrooms each unit and 1 bathroom. My 3-1s, I do have some 3-1s. I have some 2-2s. 6 of them. Yeah. And I'm not going in and ripping out bathtubs and putting in showers. It's when I'm doing any work to a bathtub, it's gone, and there will be a shower. So current place I'm at, both of the places are just getting showers. Wealth building journey. Never heard of Trappers. Used to have an Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips, but it closed down in 1999. You deleted my guesses yesterday. So Alex, hopefully you can put them up again. There's a weird thing, and I'm just learning this with live streams. The live chat doesn't stay there forever. I didn't know that. I thought once you put the video up and you see the chat, because I've seen them there for hours, and all of a sudden I would like my responses to your guess was gone. Sorry. How do we join your subscribers, JMC, only live streams and the Zooms? So the Zooms is for the course members. The live streams for members only, and I'll explain what those are before you decide if you want to do this or not. To join the members only, it's here on YouTube, and you usually can't access it on an Apple device like a tablet, iPad or a phone. You have to go to a computer, go to the website for YouTube, and there will be a join button. I think it's either iPhone or Android devices. One of them it shows up, one of them it doesn't. You hit join, and then there's 2 levels, like $2.99 a month or $4.99 a month. So there's a cost to be a member. There's no difference, right? So $2.99 is probably the best way to go. $4.99 just means you want to support the channel more, which gives me a little bit more money. But it's like, the difference is there. So I would go with the cheaper one probably. I did that because initially when I was thinking it, I was thinking, okay, I'll do the $2.99 one, we'll get these things, and then the $4.99 we'll get these things. But I figured, okay, it's just the same. So if you're on one, you can switch to the cheaper one. It doesn't matter. I appreciate the support. But then what the members only is that's people who watch my content, who are trying to invest and who are really wanting to invest. Average video on my channel gets somewhere between, it was like 1,000 to 3,000 views per video. It seems like it's 500 to 1,000 right now. I don't know if viewer count is down, or I'm finally putting enough people to sleep because nobody wants to reach financial freedom. I'm actually not very good at growing a YouTube channel. I'm better at investing and being lazy. On the members only live stream, what we do is very boring, and I think it would kill my channel if we do. Zoom is members only as well. Yeah, I was wrong. So Zoom for the course is different, but Zoom for the members only. You can come and Zoom there too. So it's a little more one-on-one, but we don't do like portfolio, look at deals or anything like that, like what strategies or markets. What we do is we literally open up emails, mine or yours, and we look at markets. And then we go through stream of consciousness, like what would I look at in this listing? How would I figure out what kind of rental this is? How would this work as a rental? We've had people come in and try to do a strategy of like rent by the room, and we realize, hey, well, it doesn't work because there's only 2 car parking spots here, and there's no on-street parking even close, so it can kill the deal. We'll look at, super boring. We open up emails and we talk about, is this a good deal or a bad deal? We just keep going through, right? Twice a month we do that. If I did that on YouTube here, imagine if people like saw, oh, there's a live stream going on, let me jump in, and they saw us looking at emails, right? They'd jump out, which kills a channel. If you want to kill a channel, you just leave it. Like you stop watching a channel, they stop getting the support, the channel shrinks, right? So I do those as members, because if you're a member, you realize they only get like 50 views, because it's like 10 or 20 people on the Zoom looking at their deals. That's what that's for. So there's 2 different versions. They both get on Zoom. I was wrong at the beginning when I started talking. The course Zoom is more strategy, deep portfolio looking, versus the live streams for members is let's look at deals, mine and yours. BuzzTune, how do you improve your negotiations? Do you try and get as much as you can negotiate, or is there a fine line where your reputation doesn't get tarnished? I think your reputation would be tarnished if you didn't try to negotiate. You can talk your way out of a deal. Whenever you're negotiating, the person who has the ability to walk away has the power. So you always want to maintain the ability to not be so emotionally invested you'll take a loss to acquire an asset. You want to be able to walk away if you have to. Set your numbers in your mind that you are willing to pay, right? Make that offer. You can try negotiation. I've got a couple of videos on how you use your inspection report as a negotiation tool, how you can do things like raise your earnest money or shorten your inspection period to make your offer more attractive. Like there are strategies that you can use. Know your local laws on what your agent can and can't do for you, because you don't want to force them to do something that they're not allowed to, or ask them to do something they're not allowed to. And have a reason, like a justifiable story for your negotiation attempt. Like, what are you asking for? You don't just go, I don't like it, I would buy it if you took $20,000 more off, right? But if you go, it needs a roof, it needs new windows, and the flooring is trashed, and whatever else is wrong with it, that's probably going to cost me $30,000 or $40,000. I'd like to take $20,000 off, or have you fix those things. Now that's a negotiation where you go, here's the reason, here's what I'm asking for, and expect them to meet you in the middle. So you are going to generally ask for more than what you actually want to let them negotiate you back to what they think is a little bit of a loss on both sides, because that's what a negotiation is. Both sides don't get exactly what they want. As an agent, your reputation can be tarnished if you are too aggressive and the seller just backs out of the deal. You can be completely wasting your agent's time. That's your reputation. So if you don't have a justifiable story to explain, this is why I'm asking for this in my negotiation, yeah, you can destroy your reputation with your agents and in the market that you're in. So I would always have a reason. Hank Hill, thanks for the offer to look at our new purchase. I don't see your email address though. Put it in there. There you go. Valentino, much appreciated. Thank you. And the Yas took a message back to make me lose sleep and wonder forever and ever what was said. I'll sleep tonight. Price and pride. Dion wearing his hat inside my hat. The pirate hat here. In case anybody lives in Washington State, I am also a pirate minister and I do weddings for free. You have to be okay with 2 things. One, a pirate is going to come and do your wedding, eye patch and all, and saber. And 2, I get to hang out and be a part of your day. 1993. That's when it would have been 30 years. Really? 93, 03, 13. Jesus. So I have Matt around to do the math for me. Wealth building journey. Stepped up basis, the new cost basis, heir inherits from their descendant, meaning they could sell the property immediately and pay zero in tax. Yeah, it's because interest rates are so. You took it again. What'd you do? That's not nice. I've been slacking with the thanks. So thank everyone who did a super chat. It is 6:30. I'll probably be wrapping this up in a few minutes. So I'm going to get through these next few questions. I have a friend coming over tonight. Josh, it's amazing how people don't understand fixed rate versus adjustable. Yeah, no kidding. Wealth Building Journey, light reading after the live stream, the book on estimating rehab costs by Jay Scott. I had Jay Scott on the channel, which was that the book that I gave away an Audible version of one of his books. I think that was it. BuzzTune, if possible, could you break down your budget between saving for the next asset and expenses like cars, vacations, groceries? Do you still save a majority of your income for the next asset? So here's the quick breakdown of when I started. I had a bunch of bad debt, wasn't making a lot of money, and I had a side hustle where I was playing World of Warcraft and selling things online. I divided it in half. So 50%. So I paid the minimum tax payment or, minimum payments on pretty much every debt that I had that I didn't know about until the divorce. 50% went to paying what I call worst debt, right? So there's good and bad debt. Hopefully everybody knows what those are. But the worst debt is adjustable rate or above a 6% interest rate on consumer debt, like credit cards, lines of credits, things like that. Things I didn't know existed until the divorce. Which is fun. That always makes me need water. So the other 50% went to saving for the first down payment on the house hack. Right. Then once bad debt was taken care of, that 50% went to tackling all. So the worst debt was gone. Then it went to the bad debt. Then I saved everything else, the 50% of what you call extra income. So disposable income beyond what your expenses are. So I started the house hack at 2 years, reduced my apartment expense from $1,500 a month down to $300 a month. That increased my saving. My goal, my target rate for savings rate, and this is what I'm hoping everybody here figures out. It's not 10%, it's not 15% saving for retirement. That's the stock method, the 20 to 30 year investing strategy to retire maybe in your 50s if you start when you're 20. I'm talking about the 10 years the average person can reach financial freedom and make work completely optional, even if you're not starting from the best position. Your targeted savings rate, this was mine. So the last 6 or 7 years that I worked at the CDL school, target rate was 100%. If you can't save 100% of your income, you still need that job and you are not financially free. So I was living on some of my rents, saving 100% of my W-2 income, and then for a while saving about 65% of my rental income, and it probably got up to around 80% there for a while. Because right now, it costs me on an average month about $4,000 a month to live. This month, I'm taking a cruise, then I'm going to Thailand, which the trip to Thailand will cost more than the whole time in Thailand. So I'll be saving more money there. My goal now is to figure out how to spend the money. You have a freedom number. How much money do you need coming in every month that is more than what it costs you to live? That's not when you retire. I retired when that freedom number was multiplied by at least 4. So when I had over $16,000 a month coming in and it cost me $4 on an average month to live because I'm still house hacking, then I felt kind of stupid going to work, right? So I retired. I don't want to say that I save for investing. It's more like I spend on anything I feel like, and there's a crap ton of money left at the end of the month that I need to put into the probably investing fund. Yeah. So I've never had a budget. I'm trying to make a reverse budget now, where if I don't spend this much on food, and my current vehicle, I just have an F-150. I'm not sure what the next one's going to be. This was my gap vehicle between leaving the CDL school and seeing how the retirement was going to go, because nobody knows, right? The duplex that I've consistently called my vehicle duplex produces about $2,200 a month in profit, cash flow. So that's my vehicle budget. I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I'm going to try to spend that much on a vehicle. That's a challenge. All that header. I just got Lynn Alden's new book, Broken Money. I'm looking forward to chewing on it. Nice. Mandy W. When are the meetings for channel members? Usually Saturdays, twice a month. I might take a poll and probably try to do it the same day as the course ones for October. September, I'm going to do one this coming Saturday because then I'm going to be gone for the cruise, and then I'll do one when I get back. So it'll be kind of the beginning of September, end of September. Generally in the afternoon on a Saturday or a Sunday. Wombat Striker, howdy. If a house is 2-bed, 2-bath in a location where everything else is at least 3-1 or an apartment, how would you look at comps? Fair market rents. So 2-bed, 2-bath, 3. So how much more would a third bedroom get you versus that 2-bedroom? Because a third bedroom is more impactful. You know, another bedroom is more impactful than another bathroom. The benefit to more bathrooms is less turnover instead of more rent, right? So you have lower tenant turnover when you have more bathrooms, but you don't get much more rent. You get more rent per bedroom. I would probably run an estimate on, so whenever you're running comps, here's what I suggest. You have a high cost of living area around you somewhere. The biggest city, to me, Seattle. So go from Seattle, come out to where I'm at, and then I draw a circle all the way around Seattle. Half of that's out in the ocean, half of that's most of it's up in the mountains. But down where I invest on the bottom, equidistant from Seattle in this arc of what part of that circle isn't in the mountains and isn't in the water. It's right on the water, but it's here all the way around. What do those rents do? What do 2 bedrooms in this arc do? Because that's the distance for commuters to the biggest city in the area. It could be Tacoma, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Diego. It could just be whatever the biggest work center compared to your rental. Look at that entire arc instead of the little zip code that you're looking at. Look at the arc, because what you can get for 2 bedrooms usually is around the same, and that's how you usually comp if you're looking at buying something where there's just not a lot of examples of sales like that too. You draw a circle the same distance from the large city from you. There can be things that change it, like if you're closer to skiing, you're closer to water sports, water access, water views, any of that. But as much as you can in that arc, what do 2 bedrooms rent for? Then what do 3 bedrooms rent for? What is a little bit less than that? Because you figure you're going to have a smaller family, expecting less from the bedrooms. You're going to get more than a 2-1, right? But not as much as a 3-1 with a 2-2. Yes, I'm going to read this before you take it back because you're driving me crazy. Because interest rates are so high at the start of a loan, would you drop like 10K to shorten the 30-year to about 24, or would you keep saving for another down payment? Thank you for your advice. Great question. I would look at, does the lender you're talking to offer a 40-year loan product, which might cost you a point to get? That'd be a better use of the 10%, 10K. Can you buy down the rate with that 10K? And do you plan on keeping that mortgage on that property long enough for that 10K purchase down of the rate to make sense? And not always, but often run the calculations with the down payment you're considering doing or the down payment of the 10K. Sometimes your cash flow will go up, but the yield will go down. And sometimes your cash flow will go up and the yield will go up. It's different every time. It's something that's far beyond my math skills to understand. But I use the CDS rental calculator app, which you can get in the App Store for free, made by Chandler David Smith, who has a YouTube channel. And he actually made the app, CDS, for Chandler David Smith. Great content and great app. A lot of advertisements are going to pop up. You just swipe them down immediately when they come up to get rid of them, and you can use that. I would run it both ways and see what's better. Ninja Vanish gifted 1 Dion Talk Financial Freedom membership. To John L. was gifted a membership by Ninja Vanish. I have no idea that that's a thing. That's awesome. You're amazing. Thank you for that. This one is on me. You're my hero. I am educated. That's a cool thing. And I think it's a joke. I absolutely think it's funny when people do that. Because I know I type everything like it's perfectly exactly what I want to send it. And I was like, I am disappointment in my grammar. And then I have to fix it. Bus 2 wealth building journey. Forget who said concentrate your limited assets to get wealthy. Diversify your main asset once wealthy. It's all about the risk-reward ratio. Kind of sounds like Charlie Munger. That's the thing I reference a lot, where Warren Buffett was giving the speech on, you want to be diversified. And Charlie Munger says, no. If you diversify, you're always going to be poor. You won't be good enough at any one asset to actually attain wealth. You focus on one asset, master it, become wealthy, and then diversify to protect the wealth. That confuses some people. All right, we will be wrapping it up there. Hey, Hyder, interested in your take on Lynn's book, wonder why no audio version? Because making Audible is very difficult. Zuber paid $5,000 for it, and I've now narrated both of his books, the 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires and One Rental at a Time, which should be replacing the current robot version that he has. And I'm going to tell you, before I wrap this live stream up for this week, and I see you all, any of you who are willing to make it, Thursday afternoon or evening, me and Frank are going to do a live stream to answer questions like this from Frank, who invested in 2008, didn't have a great experience, is reinvesting now, just closed on 2 properties not too long ago, and runs a rehab company that I might have more advice on how rehabs work and strategies you can use, because that's not my thing. I am doing my first and last rehab now. And as far as the Audible book thing, after having narrated both of his books, there is not enough water in the world to have me ever narrate a book again. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.